Welcome to the No Practice Podcast, where we cover the only sport in the world where there is no practice. With your mini rod driving host, Adam Kester, Tyler Slaw, and Chase Richardson. Strap in for some debates on the world of pulling, exclusive special guests, and a whole lot of nonsense BS. The No Practice Podcast starts now.
Ladies and gentlemen, pulling fans, welcome back for episode 36 of the No Practice Podcast. Here to talk some pulling nonsense are my dear friends, Mr. Adam Kester and Chase Richardson. Gentlemen, how are we doing this evening?
Happy March Madness, Tyler and Adam.
Happy March Madness. Yes,
Apologies for the background right there.
Yeah.
I do have it on, so.
Adam and I tried to get Chase to turn his television off as we were distracted by the reflection in the background, and Chase said, if Adam can have his projector on in the background, I can have my TV on. Isn't that right, Adam?
Sure is. I always try to promote pulling, so we're showing Benson, I do believe, from this past year on Full Pull Live. So,
okay.
Yeah.
F it. Y'all made me feel.
We didn't want to take his
off.
attention away from the. We can see
Yeah.
Chase over there rooting for like.
It's only one time a year that it's March Madness on a Wednesday, and it's the first four. So.
Well, to your defense, I can guarantee you that our guest that's coming on tonight is probably watching March Madness himself, Mr. Bill Voreis.
I would imagine.
Speaking of big guests, this is a debut guest where I'll call what it is. He basically called us out on the air, and
He did.
we invited him to back it up, and he said he'd be happy to. So you don't become a Hall of Famer by just chirping without backing it up. So excited for Bill Voreis. He's actually been on the list to bring on here. Recently returned to the sport of pulling this past year, and has pulled a lot of categories and has successfully pulled all categories. Even the light, and what he finished second in the light mod class this year, I believe, in points, right? So excited to have Bill on. You'll see him later on, and he says to hold nothing back. So I'm sure it'll work on a four-way street. So
For sure. Chase, for those of those listeners that don't know, and we can see the picture behind you as you're on a court there, can you tell us why you have a special connection to college basketball? Because there's probably a lot of people that don't know this side of you.
I was involved with basketball my whole life growing up, played, went to college with basketball, and immediately after graduating, unintentionally in a lot of ways, ended up coaching college basketball for what ended up being 10 years at the Division I level. And 2020, I walked away from it, but that career shaped me in a lot of ways, shapes and forms. Some of my best friends in life are basketball related, and have a ton of close friends that are still in it. In fact, I'm going tomorrow to Lexington, Kentucky to watch opening rounds of the NCAA tournament. I have a good friend that coaches at Alabama State. They play Auburn. Louisville plays Creighton.
They got really lucky.
Yeah.
Last night.
Yeah, they did. That was a Hail Mary play. And then in the night session, another dear friend of mine, I was actually in his wedding last May. He's associate head coach at Wofford. They play Tennessee. So me, my dad, CJ, and my buddy John are all making a day of it and go and watch some hoops. So it is in my DNA. And right here is one year whenever we won conference championship. I think that was in 2017. That was a celebration of the court they gave me whenever I quit coaching. So I used to be good at some of my life, but then I decided
basketball
now
team.
to start everything else. Do
What's
what?
your favorite basketball team, Chase?
College? Graduated from Western Kentucky. Coached there for 4 years, so that place is pretty near and dear to me. But Jacksonville State was the last place I coached for 5 years.
Did you play in college?
I did not. I was like a student assistant coach,
Okay.
student manager / assistant.
Is it
Had
more
opportunities
common?
to Huh?
Is it more common that people coach that didn't play or people that did play?
You know, I had opportunities to go play at a Division II or lower level scholarships, and I just decided I didn't really want to because I knew I wasn't going to be an NBA player. Loved the game, and I knew the head coach at Western Kentucky at the time, so it all kind of worked. It kind of happened in a funny way for me, but there are a lot of guys that don't play that coach. Like, in fact, the number one team in the country, Bruce Pearl, never played basketball a day in his life. A lot of guys like that you'd be surprised of. So when March comes around, it's still in my blood. I'm not gonna lie. I was on Saturday night. Adam's niece had a wedding that I abruptly skipped, and I lost some friends over because Jacksonville State, who I mentioned, played in their conference championship in Huntsville, and I went and watched them. And of course, the one game I went to, they lost and didn't make the big dance, but it was all good. It was it's good to see your friends, and that's a hard lifestyle, but there's a lot of things hard in this world. And I was glad I was there if they lost because they were getting ready to go jump off the building, I think.
To draw a comparison on that, Adam, how hard do you think it would be to coach somebody to tractor pull if you had never done it before?
Ooh, that's a pretty interesting question to have there. I think it would go very interesting, especially if they're pulling a mini rod.
Like,
yeah,
just
exactly.
that concept. Imagine standing there telling somebody how to do something having never done it.
Yeah. And you need to be perfect at it too, because let's face it, I mean, a lot of these sports programs, especially in college, there's like no room for error. You're only allowed a certain amount of losses, without advancement and things like that. That would be really hard to conceive a concept of a guy that can break down the game that's never done it. It's pretty amazing.
What would your one piece of advice be?
Push and pray.
Push and pray. I feel like that's what we do.
Pray.
That's what we do most of the time.
That's usually what I try to tell people when the first time they sit down. It's like, don't be afraid to push it forward.
Chase, what would your one piece of advice be?
So I get this, again, some of my best friends are guys that still coach and coach all the time. I tell them the difference between coaching and tractor pulling is that the pulling tractor doesn't talk back to you. And that was it's probably the easiest and clearest way to say it. If I was coaching somebody to pull tractors, I would just say don't be afraid to let out of the throttle if it's not going right.
I think I would say the opposite is the last thing you want to do is let out of the throttle, because nobody's ever want to pull by letting out of it early.
Well, I guess to that point, never back out of it just a little bit, because it usually gets really bad when you do that.
Yeah, you gotta full on commit for sure. Chase, last we saw you were in Florida. How was the flat track racing and all that? Daytona Bike Week, right?
Yeah, it was really, really fun, beautiful weather. If you've never been to a flat track race, it was those dudes are crazier. Like, mini rod drivers aren't shit compared to those guys. The first lap of the first heat of the race on that Thursday, they had to call it. There's an EM, like they literally made it one lap. The guy goes down, medics come out. A dude lost half of his foot because it got caught in somebody's brake rotor and just freaking sliced it off. I'm like, yeah, I don't know if I ever try this sport out, but it's pretty badass shit. If you like watching crazy people do crazy shit, I would compare them to Nitro Harley drag racers in terms of their courage. We would call it something else, but I'll call it courage. So it was pretty cool, though. It was pretty cool. Then I went to the Gainesville Gator Nationals on Friday. That was kind of a shitty day for racing because I say a shitty day. The Pro Mods ran once, and then there was a Top Fuel. We should probably talk about this. It's kind of interesting that Top Fuel, I don't know if y'all follow the sport that close. I casually follow it, but they've been having rear end issues where basically these rear ends are exploding and the oil's going all over the track, and then it just ruins their show. I think when the second that happens, it's like you're shut down almost an hour, 45 minutes without doing anything. Have you all been aware of that at all or seen that? It's kind of crazy.
I have heard that, and you think it's bad, prepping our pulling track in between passes. Imagine if somebody broke on the track and you had to shut the pull down for an hour and 45 minutes. I mean, when Brad Benedict and the Criswell, when they dumped like 4 engines onto the track, I don't even know if the pull was stopped for 20 minutes.
No, they had the vacuum cleaner up there. It sucked all that stuff up. They were on the trailer and loaded before and left before the class was just about finished.
It's impressive.
Yeah, if you ever have a real hardcore drag racer who, anytime there's breakage, like it's a delay, hell and pull, and they come to a tractor pull, we just throw some wool dry down, rake it up in the dirt, we can pull the next guy. It's kind of that perspective's funny when you hear from a drag racer. Adam, I'm sure you heard it a bunch of times.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, good trip to Florida, Adam. See some comments in here, and by the way, folks, don't know if you can tell from your end, but we do have kind of a new production back in which we can chat directly with fans, and we can also have a private chat that might get. We hope not to get mixed up in the public chat because we do talk on here internally. But Adam, I saw someone say nice lights in Rob Foster's trailer. I'm not sure what that means. You can allude to it, but how's your last few days been, and what's new? And how is more important than you? How is baby mama doing, Jamie, with the little one on the way?
Jamie's doing really good. Indigestion, I guess, for any females out there listening that have had kids. She obviously there's something growing in there and it's moving some things around, so you get some indigestion. So she's kind of battling that, but everything's been going really well. For her, like I said, we had the Colby and Erica's wedding that we went to this past weekend, and Allie was there, and we all hung out, chased around a 2-year-old the entire time. It was pretty fun. Got to see some people we haven't seen in a while. Dodged some tornadoes at the end of Friday night. Just kind of, but really, really nice wedding. They did a great job. I think everything there was as perfect as it could get. And really happy for them. Colby's a great guy. Erica, obviously, is really close.
Adam,
to
explain
family.
who exactly they are. Fans probably not know who.
So it's Ashley and Craig's daughters, Erica, and there's 3 other daughters: Julia, Carson, and Raylan. So the oldest one got married to Colby Ohl, he's a really good dude. I've kind of warmed up to him. I think Craig thinks really highly of him. So it was, like I said, a beautiful wedding. I didn't get to stay as late as I usually like to. Just, pregnant wife. We were staying away. We actually had a hotel room right next door, and something got messed up, and we had to change rooms and had to end up staying 15 minutes away. But left before I got too intoxicated.
Of course.
Which is good. But no, it was really good to catch up with some people, talk to some people. Had a really good time. But
was this crazy as your wedding, Adam? This is a good time to historical.
Yours was a good time.
Adam, tell them about your wedding out in the parking lot.
I think we'll just keep that. We'll keep that on locks.
Pregnant wife
on the show, maybe.
Baby, we'll indulge.
Yeah.
Memorable night.
Yeah. So, like I said, was able to get up pretty early. Ran home. Got to work on the tractors a little bit. I'm actually loading the tractor up tomorrow. Take it in to get it wrapped. Brand new scheme on the tractors this coming year, and the first tractor I got to take the black tractor to the Mid-America Truck Show.
We're familiar with
next
that
week.
Rest in peace.
Yeah.
Well, that's a sore subject, but hey, somebody's still going and supporting the tractor pulling there. We'll be in the Shell booth. You can come see us. I'll have the brand new wrap on display. And, getting it wrapped, taking it tomorrow to get it wrapped. Hopefully it'll be done Friday, and I have to load in Sunday, I do believe. The show starts Thursday. I'll be there. It's Thursday through Saturday, and then get to jog it on back home and finally take it apart. Try to get it ready for the Polish Championship. It's coming up here a couple months, so it'll be here before you know it. But, yeah. Staying pretty busy.
Nice. That's the next time we're all pulling mini rods, right? Officially.
Yep.
I guess that is coming up on 2 months. And speaking of, we do have a ongoing bet that I guess we can take into April, and maybe we can engage some fans on what the loser bet will be on that. It's been a
Well,
topic for a couple
I think we were talking on the side potentially about whoever loses has to dye their hair, but I don't
Yeah.
think Tyler's pretty much wanting to
But, yeah.
participate.
You
if
know,
it's
two always
part of
outvotes
it.
one. Two always outvotes one, Adam.
Yeah, basically what I said when you guys wanted to dye your hair is that I feel like I have a lot more on the line, seeing so I've been working on
Tyler,
this. I've been
you
working
can't
on
see
this
it, buddy.
mane of mine
Can't see it, buddy,
for.
but I'm actually been growing this hair out.
Yeah, okay. If you grow it out, Adam, for the better part of like 6 or 7 years, then I'll take you up on that bet.
Hey, my
Touch
wife's a
it, brother.
hairdresser. We've already found out that we can make it black, purple, whatever color you want, and then we can turn it right back to your natural color, and you won't even know what happened.
Coming from the one guy who's not lost a bet yet, I lost the chip. You lost the mousetrap, right, Tyler?
Yeah.
Don't
that's
plan
right.
on losing again either.
that's
Well, we are taking
binary.
suggestions from the fans on the what the loser should have to do at the Pullers Championship, but I don't think hair dye should be considered. So we'll just
If it goes against your religion, I understand, but
yeah, we'll go with that.
we're not asking you to get a tattoo or anything.
We'll go with that.
No, we're gonna all nominate one, and then we'll have fans vote on it, and then we're all about the fan engagement, growing the sport. We can't say shit about then, right?
Yeah. Well, Chase, you never even backed into the sled, and you said you were going to. So how
I
about
did.
that?
Yeah, that's right. Somebody
live
never
stream.
even.
Yeah.
It wasn't live stream.
I think we
Yeah.
need to address.
No, we
that.
got enough cronies all over. If you actually did it, we would have seen video evidence. I have no question about that.
I'll do
We'll
it
put
again.
you in the hall of. We'll
I'll
put
do
you in
it
the Hall
again.
of Fame. I think there are some other drivers out there. There's maybe some pretty famous ones that should be added to that Hall of Fame that everybody needs to know about. But Chase definitely needs to settle his up sometime.
I think I made up for it with my record time I pulled on the track at Louisville. Get out of that fucking back corner.
I don't think so because you won. It's got to be more
Yeah.
embarrassing than that.
Tyler, what about you? What about your small block project? Give us some updates on it.
So last we had talked, I figured out that my 400 small block had no compression in 5 of the 8 cylinders, and indeed I tore it apart. And as you can see there is a significantly broken piston, which I'm used to only seeing in a pulling tractor engine. And so it was very strange to actually tear apart an engine that wasn't, a full billet blown Hemi. This was actually the first time I pulled apart just a regular small block Chevy, which is kind of absurd if you think about it.
Mm-hmm.
So that was an interesting experience. And after that, I drug another crate engine off of the shelf that my dad had sitting around, and I dropped that into it. So went with a different motor, a different transmission at that point, and went to fire up the motor, and it was burning coolant so bad that the radiator was just emptying in 30 seconds of running it. And so I pulled that motor apart, thought it was an intake gasket, and I don't know what's going on backstage here. Thought it was an intake gasket, and nope, changed the intake gasket, still burning coolant. So then I put a new head gasket on it, and nope, wasn't the head gasket. I pulled the head off, and the cylinder was just full of rust and corrosion, horribly, horribly bad. And that's a picture of that right there. And so that was motor number 2 that was out for the count. And so we drug a third small block Chevy off of the shelf and dumped that into this car. So inside of 8 days, we had 3 different engines, my buddy Blake and I, and 2 different transmissions in this car. But it is finally running and driving down the road, and I drove it to work and back today. And so finally that project is put to rest. But now I have all this small block Chevy stuff sitting here torn apart, and I think I'm going to have to buy some high performance parts for those and get one of those back going. So it's
Sounds
kind
like
of
you're
fun.
gonna go to a tractor pull if I didn't know any different.
I know it's kind of fun tearing into an engine that isn't such high stakes, and everything doesn't matter quite as much. But it is
Actually,
interesting to be like,
I
oh,
beg to
look-
differ, Tyler. I think it matters a little bit more on some of the things you do with the small block Chevy. As simple as putting the head bolts in and not putting any kind of sealer on them.
Oh yeah.
If you don't, they leak really bad.
Okay, well that's a hot tip. That's something I can look forward on.
No,
So
it
yeah,
is.
stay tuned for my my small block build. But Chase, I had to ask you about what happened here in this
Oh.
picture we're looking at. Describe to our fans and listeners what we're looking at here is in this picture.
That is that is my wreck truck that
Okay.
I did a number on a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, you didn't tell us you wrecked your truck. I had to have an insider tell me. Tell us what happened there.
Yeah, I'm trying to think when that was. It was before our last podcast. I was
For our listeners, Chase didn't tell us he wrecked his truck, and he didn't know I was going to throw this picture up, so I'm kind of catching him off guard here.
no. This is a good awareness for safe driving habits.
I'm sure it was somebody else's fault.
Oh, yeah. Tell us
Yeah.
how it was someone else's fault, Chase.
I was about. You can see there in the background is the shop where our farm, mine and my dad's farm and our shop is, and it's like 5:45 in the morning, and it's pitch black. It's for the time change, and we live on some narrow, curvy roads, and a car came over into my lane, and I had to leave the road and was going towards a goalie, and had to fishtail ass into my truck into it to keep from doing a nose tip over dive. And as you can see right there, it pretty well ripped the ass off of it. But there's always good body men to fix stuff when it's broke, right?
Absolutely, yes. For sure.
Yeah. The worst part is, it was pretty dark. The guy, whoever it was, stopped, and the truck was not very drivable. And then I went to go get out, and the dude just freaking floored it into town, and nobody ever found him. So,
The Phantom guy.
yeah, I guess, yeah. No, it was
So
scary. It's kind
you
of
went
kind of jacked up.
careening off the road in your truck and messed up the side of your truck and just didn't even tell us about it?
Well, if I had been hurt, I would have told you, but it's just like going tractor pulling. Just go toll something out. It is not worth talking about to someone else, right?
Okay.
So
fair
yeah,
enough.
that was a couple weeks ago. It's kind of scary, but it was okay. Nobody got hurt.
Okay. I was hoping for a juicier story there.
No, I wish it was. If it would have been juicier, I'd have been already telling you about it.
Yeah.
Pretty boring and dumb.
I didn't know if you were like checking some girls only fans or something and got distracted.
I was that mile earlier, but I was close enough to the shop. I was getting ready to get out. But no, it was. Yeah, I'm gonna say they were probably on crack or drinking when they fled off, but it is what it is. Nobody got hurt.
Those rascals.
Yeah.
Hopefully you don't have that when you're heading to Louisiana. Is that next weekend you're heading to Louisiana to do a little truck pulling?
Yeah, there's a pull on Full Pull Live. We got the first outdoor pull of the year. I guess Florida, there's some outdoor pulls, but it's Mid-South Pullers next weekend. Hemi, Louisiana, which is not far from New Orleans. Told that there's quite the attendance there, and the weather looks promising looking ahead. So heading down there will be on a live stream, and then obviously coming up the late part of April. I mean, come May, pulling season's basically here for a few months. So we're catch our breath one last time, go to Louisiana and try to have some fun.
Have you ever pulled in Louisiana before?
I've not ever pulled in Louisiana. No, I've been there. I've been to Bourbon Street a number of times, but never pulled there. So
Is that where they have crawfish boils and all the good Cajun things?
it's I read something. Maybe someone was telling me it's New Orleans that got voted the #1 food town in the U.S., which is probably not a surprise. But it's if you've not been, I highly recommend. Yeah, if you have not been, I highly recommend. But yeah, it's coming up next weekend.
Okay. Well,
I've
hopefully
visited
you
there
can,
a couple times. It's a pretty nice place. Worth going through. Make sure if you're going to get any drinks, get a hand grenade. They should seal the deal for you.
a hand
the only
grenade.
drink
That's a
you need.
beverage.
Yep.
Tell us about the hand grenade beverage.
Yeah, it's good. And then you go to
It's good.
I can't think of O'Brien's maybe, and you get you a Hurricane. Those are pretty good. And then there's a few other things you can get there late the night. Willie's Chicken Shack. They got these cinnamon or some sort of biscuits. They're
Okay.
honey butter biscuits. Oh yeah, really good at night when you're hungry. But yeah, Bourbon Street's pretty sweet. Been there a couple times.
Well, Chase, you'll have to keep us posted on the delicacies of Louisiana. I would imagine somebody at the event would be doing some sort of crawfish boil in typical Louisiana fashion. So
Well,
hopefully,
I think they did last year. actually. No,
Hopefully you can redeem yourself. You won at the farm show, and you were arrogantly getting on here drinking beer out of your trophy, and then that came back to bite you. When you went to that next indoor event and you struggled to get the top 12 both days. But I have faith in you. You're going to redeem yourself. You're going to take home the win, and you're going to be on here the following episode drinking beer out of a trophy once again.
I'm glad you believe in me. That's why I consider myself a mini rod puller, because it's really hard to go look that stupid mini rod pulling. It's hard to win, but if I went to a pool in Kentucky, there was a lower level mini rod pool, I'd probably do all right in it. 2-wheel drive pulling's not like that. So
I think you need to back into the sled to give everybody else a head start.
I would say all bets are on the table after last time. Willing to try anything. So never been to Louisiana, so I wouldn't roll anything out, to be quite honest with you. But no, looking forward to going somewhere new to pull and being outdoors. Well, I'm sure I'll come back with more of an itch to get going in May. So that's next week. I'll be sure to keep you up to date on the crawfish happening, Tyler.
Much appreciated. And hero to zero on tractor pulling is I feel like that's just typically the way it goes. Not everybody can be as good as Awesome Bill, our guest tonight, that had a winning streak like he did. And that's why, Chase, we've got this new deal coming out where pulling drivers themselves are going to rank each other, but only one another, based on driving. With full pull driver rankings, they're designed to highlight the top skilled drivers in the most popular pulling classes. You will vote for the drivers you believe showcase the highest level of talent, consistency, and driving ability. So driver skill only. Rank drivers based on their skill on the track, how they drive, their consistency, and their performance. Do not consider the vehicles, engines, or equipment. This ranking is focused on the driver's ability, active competitors only. And you can only vote for drivers who are active competitors in the 2024 season. Drivers from all organizations are eligible to receive votes. No specific organizational affiliation is required to vote for a driver. Teammate exclusive, meaning, I can't vote for Bruce. Bruce can't vote for me. Adam can't vote for Toby, and vice versa. And it should be really interesting because this isn't a popularity contest. This isn't something that random folks can spam and vote constantly. It's just drivers talking about drivers. And I'm kind of looking forward to that. I don't think I will rank very well because I wreck too much stuff. I would imagine we will see, some veterans of the sport showing out in these driver rankings. You got to think of people like former guest Ken Venny and even somebody like Rick Peters in the mini rod class. Adam Bauer with all of his passes down the track. Adam, what do you think when it comes to the mini rod class and drivers rankings? Not equipment, just driving ability.
I think you stole mine when you asked me last week what I thought it was going to be. I was going to throw Rick Peters up on there. He's been doing it a very long time. And some of the passes he's made, definitely up there. Are we going by class, or what are we doing here?
It's going to be, there's 8 different classes, and starting April 2nd on the new second best podcast in pulling, This Week in Pulling, they will be revealing them on a week-by-week basis. Not sure when exactly mini rods are, but it's class by class, and I think it's the 8 premier classes in pulling, and the voters are selected at random, and obviously they cover all organizations and as much the pulling geography as you can. So it's pretty cool dynamic, and I believe that all 3 of us are voters in the mini rod category. There's 15 or 20 in each, if I'm not mistaken, and I'll definitely vote for both of you in my top 5. Not because I like you, I genuinely think that you're both deserving of it, despite what I say to your face normally.
Yeah, I don't know. Adam might be worthy of it. I don't know about myself. I think
Adam's top 2. Adam's top 2.
I've had too many passes where I failed to get out of it. But I would say if the Unlimited class was one of the classes, even though that is only one sanctioning body, I feel like the guy we're about to talk to would make that cut for sure. And that is none other than Awesome Bill, Mr. Bill Voreis, driver of the American Thunder Tractor. Bill, thanks for coming on. How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing great. It's an honor to be here. I've been more nervous about this today than if I was in a pull-off at Bowling Green, but
That's why we told
it's
you you're
great.
supposed to drink at least 7 or 8 drinks before you go on the show, but I don't know if you're a 7 or 8
warmed
drink
up.
guy on a Wednesday night, Bill.
I haven't drank 7 or 8 drinks in my life, so I don't think I'd get it all done tonight. I don't have anything against alcohol. I piss enough people off sober. I don't need to be drinking. So
There you go.
That's
Hey,
respectable.
it works. It works.
Well, Bill, mad respect for you. Obviously, the honor is ours to bring you on here. Your pulling record speaks for itself. We're going to get into all that this evening, but it's even cool of an opportunity being that you've recently come back in a new category, the light modified and modified. You have been a modified puller, but it is a newer class, a newer combination. So we're going to talk a lot about the past, the present, and obviously there's only a handful of Hall of Fame active pullers in pulling, Bill. So the honor is ours. You've been a guest we've had Circle for a long time. And I must say, as we open the show, we talk a lot of, I won't call it BS knowledge on this show. And you kind of called us out and said, we need some differing opinions on here. And we invited you on, and here you are on to back it up. So the honor is ours. And thank you again for coming on, Bill. Right off of you're not an active unlimited driver. We're talking about these driver rankings, which is a new thing. It's for fans. It'll be a once a year thing that fans just get to see what pullers think of one another. In the unlimited class that you competed in, real soft, your top 3 drivers, just purely that are active. Feel free to do it in order or in any randomization. We're just going to come out blazing with you, Bill.
in the unlimited class,
Yeah, currently.
yeah. In no particular order, Adam Bauer, Joe Etter. Oh man. God, I hate to leave anybody out, but
You're gonna have to.
I think Brad Benedict does a really good job too. So
Okay.
There you
That's
go.
fair.
That's the toughest question we'll ask all night, Bill.
Yeah, I don't know about that. Bill, where are you
Right.
joining us from this evening? It looks nice and bright outside.
I'm in Scottsdale, Arizona, staying with my daughter. I come out here every year at this time. They have a Renaissance Festival, which sounds lame as hell, but it's actually a lot of fun. They have actual jousting. I mean, where guys get their ribs broke and knocked off of horses and
Bill, are you
stuff like
jousting?
that. If there was enough money, yes, but probably not. So
What would be the price amount for you to have to joust someone, and what fellow tractor puller would you want to take on in jousting?
Oh, wow. Well, I'd want $250,000 because I probably wouldn't be able to work for about 5 years.
Okay.
But fellow tractor puller, wow. I think Billy Beers would be a riot on a horse trying to hold a
there you
jousting
go.
stick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe we can get that done.
Are you sure the horse might be riding him?
So at this Renaissance fair, do you have like those giant turkey legs that you're walking around
Oh,
eating?
They got, I don't eat them, but they got that. They've got I don't dress up, but they have people dressed up as jesters and knights and then of course they got the ladies of the evening or whatever they were back in the 1500s.
Oh.
But
Jason
they have
told me
people
about
actually,
those.
yeah, they actually have people making knives. Anything you can think of. They have comedians that do comedy about it. If you're ever out here, it's from February till the last weekend in March, which is coming up.
So it's like
And
a
it's only
month
on the
long?
weekends, huh?
It's
But
a
it's only on the
month long?
weekends.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
it's actually it's 2 months long, I think. But it's um, and it's always packed. It's a big deal. It's kind of famous worldwide as Renaissance festivals go. You think Arizona, you don't think of that, but
Yeah, I'll be honest. I didn't know that happened out there.
I never knew such a
yeah,
thing existed, honestly.
yeah, yeah, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
And
You got to remember that.
first time I went, I thought, man, this is gonna suck. But it was great. I got hooked. So
Awesome.
Yeah, I
It
like
always
it. We're-
reminds me of the scene in the Cable Guy of the medieval times, where they're out there fighting and with the night costumes on and stuff, with the armor and all that stuff. It seems like a pretty brutal sport, really, with the jousting and the fighting and all the stuff that they do. It's kind of cool. I've got to admit myself.
They do all that there, anything you can think of. But the jousting's pretty amazing. I mean, they got the iron suits on and they'll come off and they'll be caved in where the thing they're supposed to shatter, but there's a lot of them that are done for the day.
Geez,
So,
so legitimately, two guys are getting on horses in suits of armor, riding at each other, jousting one another as you sit there with a turkey leg, being like, not bad, decent festival.
I do popcorn and a Coke, but yeah, and the horses aren't trotting, they're in a full gallop and they hit each other. So
Wow.
Impressive. Impressive.
So why don't you take us back to your 1500s of when you started in pulling? Like, tell us how you kind of got started in pulling, Bill,
yeah.
because you've been around forever.
I had never been to a tractor pull in my life, and in 1974, I got a job at a dealership. I didn't have enough ground where I could make a living just off of farming, so I worked in winter as a mechanic. And they said, "Hey, we're going to go down to the farm show. Do you want to go?" I didn't know what a farm show was or anything, so I went down, and then they had tickets for the pull that night, and I think Harms might have won the heavy super stock class, but I was just amazed. I'm like, man, I'm a gearhead. I quit drag racing because I knew if I broke my legs or my arms, I wouldn't be able to farm. I thought, well, this is something. So on the way home, I told the guys, I said, I'm going to do this. And they just laughed at me. They thought I was crazy. So when I got home, I realized before I could ever have tractor pulls in our area, we didn't have a sled. So a group of us got together and we built a pulling sled. And uh, we got that sled going, and then we started tractor pulling. My first tractor I pulled with was a 7050 Alice farm stock. But once we got that sled, we were pulling at Berrien Springs, several pulls in Michigan. Everybody needed a sled, so we were busy with that. And then uh, in 75, I pulled a 7050 Alice, and then in 76 or 77, I had a 4430 John Deere I bought brand new, and the first thing I did was change the pump, change the turbo, and pulled it. That's when I first met Don Masterson. I entered the state hook at Goshen. And after that, I thought, man, this is kind of crazy. So that's when I bought the 966 and started working towards a tractor for full-time pulling.
Yeah, because previously is when you were crazy, before you really amped it up, right?
Right. But
And is this the Orient Express we're seeing a picture of here?
yeah, that's after I changed the sheet metal on it. Yeah.
Okay, tell us about the
Brett Burt
origin.
did that for me in 1988. Brett did all that for me, the
Really?
sheet metal and stuff. Yeah.
Wow, that's wild. Tell us about the origin of that name, the Orient Express.
You know, it was just I found this what I thought was a neat mural of a dragon, and our school mascot was a dragon. So I put the dragon on there, and I thought, well, I'll call it the Orient Express, which Orient Express didn't run to China, but it was a famous train, luxury train. So it just kind of stuck, and it was an unusual name. Nobody else ever had it, so
That is
it
true.
worked out well.
So you had the old tractor, and then you slowly started updating. A lot of people talk about how simpler times, the dollar invested compared to the fun had. Obviously we're having a ton of fun now. You're having a ton of fun now. How does what you're doing today compared to your roots and your origin as far as time and dollars invested compared to enjoyment?
Well, when I started on that tractor, everybody said cubic inches was a waste of money, and as we know in pro stock now, that's not true. But so I bought that 966, and it had a miss in it when I tore it down. Somebody put brand new sleeves and pistons in it, but they had a 466 piston in with a 414 piston, so one cylinder wasn't getting any compression. So I went ahead and put a 466 crank in it, and put a TO8 turbo on it, and then they had what they called the 12,000 altered, which I put 30.5 tires on, and and we could run a P pump. And my first year, the only time I ever won is when there was absolutely nobody else there. It just would not run. And that winter, I bought a Hypermax head, and also that winter, I got a Clevite book that had every engine ever built and the outside diameters of the sleeves and compression heights and everything. And I found out I could put an HD11 Alice Chalmers dozer piston and sleeve in that tractor, and I had a guy in South Bend trim the sleeves so they fit in there. So my second year of pulling, I had an engine that was 500 cubic inches and 497, but close enough to 500. And at that time, everybody said it's a waste of money putting big bore stuff in there. And then 79, I had a really good year. I mean, I won a ton. And then I remember at one of the state polls, I think might have been 1980, and everybody had the Hypermax box turbos on and everything, and I was still running a T08, and we went to a tractor pull down at Frankfurt, and I won. Don Masterson was there, and he's going down the line saying, good run, good run. And then when he got to me, he says, you ran too good. He says, a motor that small shouldn't be winning this class. Well, I wasn't going to sit there and tell him I was 500 cubes, So I just said, well, I was lucky, but I was probably the first international that ever had. My daughter came in, had bigger than stock cubes in it. So.
Okay, but they didn't know it at the time, so you were running a much larger motor than what they thought.
I ran that motor for at least 2 years, and then I started selling the pistons and stuff to some of the guys. Paul Hawkins bought some, and actually Jerry Lagarde bought a set from me to try on his dyno, which was probably a mistake because then he made a bigger sleeve and piston kit. But
of course,
after that, though, I went to Phil at Riverside, and we made a motor that was 570, which was considerably bigger than anybody else had. So for years and years, I ran that 570, and I contribute that to probably all the wins I had because we just ran bigger cubes. It wasn't cheating or anything; it was legal. It was just.
That was going to be my question, Bill. Obviously, at that time, I'm sure you would not have done it if it was not legal. But what made you give up that information to share with your fellow competitors or whatnot when you said what made you decide to start selling the pistons outside of maybe making a little money on them?
Well, the guy that was making them was getting ready. He was old. He was 80-some years old, and he had an old lathe and everything he was doing. And I had him make me 10 sets. And I knew that I couldn't, the deers were big. I knew that 500 wasn't going to cut it. So I was working on a bigger motor, and I said, well, I need to get rid of all these piston sets I got. So I started selling them. So
okay, so you hoarded
moving
it
along
until
to
you
something
felt like,
better.
Yeah, until you felt like there was going to be a new hot thing, and then you're like, all right, guys, I'll let you in on a little trade secret here. This is what you got to run. See you suckers building the bigger one.
After you whooped their ass for a few years.
And then it's like when I'd go to Ron Perry and I'd tell him what speeds I want to run, and he'd always say, he says, well, if you would build 12 sets of gears, I could do them for like a third of the money for one set. So I'd have him build me 12 sets, and I sold gears to a lot of people. We beefed up a TA one time that we ran for a while. And then they got to where we had to take the TAs out. When the 570s and the big Chargers came, even before that, the torque amplifiers just didn't work anymore.
So I love hearing about like back in the day when it seemed like there was more room for kind of innovation, out of the box thinking, things like that. Do you feel like where we're at today in the sport, there is as much room as there was back then, or do you feel like everything's more funneled into one train of thought?
Well, yeah, I remember when we started the pro stock class, everybody kept telling us, well, it's a step up class to the super stock. And we were a grand national class. And if I get off on a tangent you guys don't want to hear, just tell me. But
Tangent.
for 2 years, we was like a grand national. we was a Grand National class for 2 or 3 years. Well, then the super stock guys got to playing, and I love the super stock people, but they got to complain, and so they made us a pro national class, which was kind of a kick in the nuts. And but I kept running it, and so I had 2 pro national titles because I couldn't get it. This went to the same polls and everything. It just wasn't considered Grand National anymore. And then they had that for 2 or 3 years, and then they made it a Grand National class because they saw the pro stock classes just got really popular, and it's probably if it's not the most popular class now, it's close. I mean, as far as the diesels go, but this day and age, we have so many people that specialize in stuff. Like when lenders were kicking my ass for 3 years, I mean, and I had a big motor, and I know I had what I thought was the best stuff, but of course you had all the people say, well, they must be cheating. Lenders don't cheat. Hardly anybody cheats. Very few. I've only caught 2 people cheating in my entire life.
Tell us who, Bill.
One of them's dead, and the other one's still pulling. I'll tell you on the side sometime, but I'm putting one in.
Yeah.
I don't want to
Just
go
tell
to
us
a
what their
lawsuit.
name rhymes with.
I'll throw some people under the bus later, but we're not doing it now.
Okay.
But so I went, Dana Monson. I told him I wanted every compressor wheel from a certain size to another size that would go on a T18A90. He sent them to me. And then that guy I was telling you about in South Bend, he machined a couple of housings for me for these wheels to fit in. And Ed Boyer used to get a machine for me too. Ed pulled yonder super stock way back when. I'd put them on a 90 shaft, and I'd get about a third of the way down the track, and you could tell I was making a bunch of power, but then just explode, and then you're digging their head off and digging pieces of exhaust wheel out of your pistons and stuff.
Of course.
So I called Jerry. I think the world of Jerry Legod. He worked with me a lot. And I said, I got a wheel and cover I want to send you. I want you to put on your shaft, because he had a shaft that would hold together.
The best
And
shaft.
yeah, and he put that wheel and cover on that shaft, and I started winning again. And he called me. He says, I'll give you 6 weeks, and then I'm going to start selling it to everybody else. And I'm like, man, that's kind of a raw deal, but he's in it. That rascal. But I pretty much knew that was. I'm in the feeling if I got the same parts as everybody else or better, I think I can run with them. Okay. But he was to his word. I mean, but when that 6 weeks was up, he sold a bushel of them. And then back. Yeah, it was just a lot of fun back then. Lorenz and Wilkins, every time I got teched at a pole, they were at the side of the trailer looking, seeing if I had anything new on there. And I remember I was the first one to get a Sigma pump and put on a Pro Stock. And Jerry said he didn't know if it helped or not. Well, it helped quite a bit. Well, the next pole I go to, Lorenz and Wilkins both got Sigma pumps on their tractors. So, but you try to keep that stuff hid, but when you're getting teched and they come up on their little four-wheelers and they're standing there watching them tech, it's kind of hard to cover that pump up. But it was a lot of fun.
So
nothing much has really changed in that fact. I mean, if everybody's got a hot turbo and they do good with it one time, everybody's going to have the turbo next week or whenever as fast as they can get it.
I get people that send me nasty freaking DMs on Facebook about, it's not, pulling sucks now. In the old days, all that crap. And I spent a lot of money on, I literally got 30 wheels and covers I can't use sitting on a shelf at home. I might as well scrap them out. But we got, you got Weimers, you got Hart's Diesel. Why in the world would you try to come up with something on your own when that's all them guys do? I mean, that's
right.
That's their thing. It'd be like me trying to design a better cylinder head for a blown motor. Everybody's working on it,
Right.
So
I think it probably comes from like where my dad started pulling. Like he had to build or make everything himself just to afford to be able to do it. Like if you're not, I mean, there's a certain amount of people who go out there and buy everything and put this stuff together, but when you're coming up with stuff and your abilities take you to so far, and then you got to let the cat out of the bag, and somebody else has got to help you so you can finish the project. So it's going to get out sooner or later.
I mean, I
But
had to
now
go
there's a
have
lot
my,
more companies, lot of companies that just specify in tractor pulling stuff. You know, it's pretty crazy now.
yeah, I had to, Ron Perry made my first steel flywheel, um, for the tractor and made my pressure plates and stuff. Um, I was, I just lucky to be connected to so many good people back then. Um,
So walk us through how that transitioned from that phase of Bill Voreis to the multi-engine mod Bill Voreis that we know today.
well, one big step was when I took the pro stock to Brett Berg and we went to the new sheet mill and everything. I learned that putting a hitch in the right place and everything, that tractor hooked, and I think I went 1 year undefeated with that tractor. I'm not sure. Don't anybody hold me to it, but I had pretty good years with that tractor. Well, then I took 9 years off because my kids were getting to the age where they're doing softball. My daughter was doing cheerleading. So I took 9 years off. I sold that tractor to Carl Smith, and then I got a hair up my butt to build a John Deere Super Stock. And I kept breaking pistons in it all the time. So I only did that for a year and then rolling bar about it. But I took 9 years off, but I thought, man, I really missed the pulling. And I went down and talked to Ralph Banner. And when I went there, I was just going to do a 3 engine tractor. And they had quit in 97. And I bought the old Mr. Chevy chassis. He took it out and showed it to me. It's in a barn sitting in the dirt. It didn't look like much. And he told me, he says, it looks like crap. He says, but I guarantee you, we'll mount motors on it and it'll work great. So I'd be in the tractor going up and down the field. We were going to do 3, and I called him. I said, Ralph, how hard would it be to go 4? And he said, well, you must be at the far end of the field if you're calling me. So he told me he had a box. So anyway, before it was over, it had 5 engines on it. And I only had 4. I had 4 brand new Dart 360, all aluminum block, big, big block Chevys. And Ralph had a cast iron motor he loaned me to run the Unlimited with. And I went to the right guy because that tractor, once I got the blowers running fast enough, I won 2 Unlimiteds that year, and I only ran part of the summer. So, and then I was hooked. And of course, having all those motors sitting on the front, I just loved it.
Did you always run the crank to crank style engines?
Always crank to crank, yep.
Always crank to crank.
And I've never broke a crank doing that.
Really? Okay, so I was going to ask you how did that work? Because
I've welded a lot of hubs on, and we've had to take a torch and cut a lot of hubs off.
Right.
But never broke a crank. I did have a hub go bad the year Archer won the points. If I'd have made a good pass in the pull off there at Wellington, no, it was Canfield, but the hub come apart and pushed the motors apart, and so that killed it for me. So I could have had 7 championships in a row, but woulda, coulda, shoulda. That's all part of it, So
Yeah.
Well, okay. Now that you're talking about what potentially happens with that stuff, now the one vague memory I have from you on many occasions, you start the tractor up. Now that's a good one too, but I'm more impressed by the fact of pull off time, and Bill's usually smoked it out the end about 350. Well, back then about 320,
Yeah.
before now, but go about 320, 350, whatever it is, come back for the pull off. And you hear the tractor start up. You hear all 5 engines. They never did idle quite the same, so it's all jerking around and making its noise like it is. Then you hear a couple engines shut off, or at least one engine shut off, maybe more. and you see this tractor coming out of the shadows and pulling out there and backing up the sled. You can kind of hear the clutch laboring a little bit because you got 2 engines pulling all the whole deal. And then you pull forward and you flip some switches, and you start to get on a little bit, and you see some fuel shoot out the pipes. And as soon as they light, it takes off, and you usually went out there and done pretty good with it. Can you tell us a little bit about the mentality of going out there and lighting 2 engines as you're leaving the line with the ignitions, and when they kick on and
also
just
explain
hammering
to
it?
fans, like, what the hell, why would you even do that? We understand,
Well,
but give them the story of what would make a
Yeah,
guy
give
do
it.
that.
Give us a story of how this goes about, because it happened
Well,
numerous times.
it was always because I had clutch trouble on one of the two on the crank. I never had any trouble with the back motor, but um, for a while there, I kept having trouble with the pressure plates kicking them little things out and then locking them tight. So I'd start the motors and I'd go to shift. You'd hear all 5 of them start, and I'd go to shift, pull the sled, and I couldn't because this one's
One gear.
spinning the gearbox, these 2 over there. So when Ralph built the tractor, we made it where I could start all 5 of them from the seat. So I'd shut them off, pull back the sled. And of course, you always got people running up there and going, telling you to shut off. 2 motors aren't
Yeah,
running. I'm trying
and
to
you
get
see
that.
them waving out of the way. Get the hell out of the way.
Just get the hell out of the way. I'll take care of it.
Clips.
And so I'd get back to the sled and I'd turn the mags on, and I'd get down the track, and sometimes it'd slip enough that it wouldn't quite start them. So I'd hit that pedal and then fire off. I did that at,
Chapel Hill for
I never lost doing it. I'm not
I
trying to
know
brag.
that's what I'm saying.
I never
This was
lost doing it, but I did it at Chapel Hill. I did it at Toma. I did it one time at Bowling Green. And when I did it at Bowling Green, it was dark as hell. Nobody could really tell what I was doing.
Oh, I saw it
But
every
then
time.
we finally got the pressure plate thing figured out, and then I didn't have to do it after that. So
But I mean, you're literally taking an engine from maybe not even an idle, right?
it's about
You're already
7,000.
yeah, you're already pulling them up, and then you hit them and light them, and just wide open right off the get go. It's like starting
Yeah.
up your lawnmower with the throttle wide open and just taking off with it.
Yeah, just like a
It
lawnmower.
was amazing.
Yeah. We had
I
to
loved
put heavier input shafts in because we'd put little twists in them when I do that. And Ralph would say, "You're gonna have to quit that shit." And I said, "Well, just make me some bigger input shafts." And damn it, Ralph did, and we didn't twist them. But yeah, I remember one time at Chapel Hill, there's a video of me going down the track, and Ralph and Bauer's standing there with his hands on his waist, just shaking his head. No, he can't believe it. Did it, but
Yeah, well, I
it's
mean, I
just
don't think a lot of people in the stands really knew what was going on, but everybody that's mechanical and kind of knows what's going on, you hear. Obviously, it takes a little longer to get out there, but you're like, he's only got a couple motors running. What's he gonna do here? And then after you see you do it one time, then it was kind of like, well, he's gonna do it again. And every time you did it, you won. It was awesome.
yeah. I was
That was a
lucky
pretty
a
good.
lot.
That was a pretty big run you had going there. And tell us about the I mean, if you were on Midnight Mistress message board back in the day, there was a lot of things getting shot at you because where did the dump truck motor start up over the Hemis? Can you tell us about
I
that?
went to a Ohio State tractor pullers meeting, and they were it's when Larrabee was kicking ass with blown 4-wheel drive trucks, and he got up at the meeting and just ripped into all of the Chevy guys. He says, "You guys are running them dump truck motors. There's no way you can expect to ever win anything running a dump truck motor." And I just sitting there thinking, he's going to eat them words someday. So when I started doing good, I just called them dump truck motors, and which that ticked a lot of people off too. But that's where the big block Chevy came from, was dump
You
trucks
had
back in the day.
fans make shirts that looked like Knox's sassy shirts that said, what'd they say on the front of them? They said something, I
I
can't
don't.
remember. But they like help the dump truck list on the back.
Oh
of
yeah,
it.
help
And
yeah.
I have to admit, I had one of them. I got one of the shirts from one of the guys up there. You had a pretty good fan base rolling up there in northern Indiana, really pulling for you.
Well, it started when they had the shirts made "Help the Hemi" list. Remember that?
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Explain, there's a little history to this, and I think it touches present day, but The Hemis, I guess, aluminum Hemis came to the scene, probably in the mid-90s, early 90s, from historically what was probably Chevy engines. I don't know the proper grammar, so please correct me. But, as you said, there's a big window where people just converting to running Hemis all the time, Hemis, and you came and ran what were Chevrolet engines, and from what I've understood, I've never messed with a high performance Chevy engines, but they say Chevy engines can run right with them. It just seems like sometimes the maintenance isn't as forgiving. Do you agree or disagree with that? And kind of tell us why you don't see a ton of Chevrolet engines no longer in pulling from your standpoint.
Including on Bill's tractor.
I'm going to tell you that reason. When I built this tractor, there's some really good Big Chief style heads made now. There's a I can't name, but any North Carolina company makes what they call a 9-degree that has shaft rockers all in one shaft and everything. And I wanted to build 4 of them. And I talked to them and everything. But the worst thing about it is, okay, I built them. I'm an old son of a bitch to start with. So I pulled 3 years. Who's going to buy them? Drag racers aren't going to buy them. Pullers aren't going to buy them. Right. So I thought, well, and literally, they wouldn't be $7,000 cheaper than the best Hemi you could build. So I found these brand new Hemis from Olds in Illinois and bought them. But your dad, Tyler, Bruce, and I mean, we ran against each other neck and neck for years. Or he had the 5 Hemis and I had the 5 Chevys, and then it was 4 Chevys and a 481X, and then it was 4 Chevys with the Hemi. I called the Hemi the pony motor to start the other motors and stuff.
The Hemi Chaser, I believe.
Yeah.
And now you got nothing but pony motors on that thing.
I know. Yeah, it sucks. It's Noonan makes some pretty nice stuff. And
is that some foreshadowing? Is that the direction you're going, Bill, or what?
I don't know.
Are you going to get to the long end of the cornfield once again and make a phone call and say, how about 3?
Ralph won't answer the phone anymore, and I think Brad will hang up on me. But
I bet he won't.
I need to thank some people. Ralph, when I first built that tractor, he traveled with me for 3 years. And it's kind of a blessing. But when you didn't do good, I mean, we came home from Vermont, and for 900 miles, I got my ass chewed the whole freaking way.
Really?
Oh my gosh, yeah. I love Ralph to death, but man, he was hard on you.
What did you do wrong, Bill?
Didn't win. I'd had a bad habit when I first built the mod. I was all about, I got to have every ounce of power I can get out of it. So I was changing pulleys, I'd speed the blowers up. At one time at Chapel Hill, I had 1471s delivered there and put 1471s on it for the Unlimited. And Ralph kept telling me, he says, you need to match your gear to your power, quit trying to. So finally I started listening to him and started doing a lot better. And when Martin's had their Hemi tractor and I just had the standard Chevys, what I call standard, I could beat them once in a while, but you could tell that Hemis were going to own that class. And then Dave Archer decided he was tired of his Big Chiefs. And the studying I did on the Big Chiefs, they probably don't make the power a Hemi does up high, but they make a ton of torque between 5,000 and 7,500, 7,000. And so we just put a gear in it, and that's where them engines ran. And they did me a lot of good for a lot of years. I mean, it was just a good combination.
Yeah, Chase, I'm surprised you're not asking what gear ratio that actually is, because I know you've asked a few people about 2-engine and 5-engine and 4-engine gear ratios. So,
well, at that time, I don't think it's probably irrelevant to current pulling with your 5, your 4 Chevys and your 5th whatever rotating engine it was with the Firestone tires. What kind of gear ratio were you running then at that time?
We ran a 1276-1 and a 13. A half a ratio. slower. But I ran that from when I built the tractor in '98 until I sold that red tractor. It was 1276, and I had two different gearboxes.
And
And
so,
the four motor box that I ran at Louisville and everywhere else is a 1512-1, which would be insanely fast now with the Midas tires and stuff. But I ran a faster gear back then because my engines were made to run the RPMs that the Hemis did.
Right.
So
As far as that information on, like, was that something Ralph helped you with, the 5,000 7,500 number, or is that something you just learned through trial and error? Because obviously, I don't think you were running computers or anything on your tractor at that time, were you?
no, I just talked. I did a lot of reading, and I was bound and determined at that time I wasn't going to have Hemis, or I didn't want. I didn't want to do that. I had a 481X on one time, and I wasn't impressed with it. But the wedge motors are still the king in the pro stock class, where there's no blowers on them and stuff. But I'm talking about pro stock drag racing. But I just wanted, and then Archer sold me all those I bought all these motors and clutches and everything pretty reasonable. And I remember Ken Venny telling me when I'm buying, he says, "Al Archer could never make a pull off with it." And but I pulled them off a lot. Hell, in the Unlimited, you pulled twice everywhere you went. I mean, no matter what. So
How'd you feel about that?
about what Ken told me, or
No, the pull-offs.
Both.
I love them. I
Both.
love them to death, guys. I think we still need to have them. I think we've kind of went overboard on the.
Distance?
You need to tune them where you can make two passes. Is the way I feel like it. If you've got your tractor so on edge that you can only make one pass, I don't think you're going to win a championship anyway. But I think the guys that win championships are the ones that can make two
Consistently
runs
do
when
it.
they need to. Yep.
but you were the king, Bill. I don't know how many times at the Inderley we would see this badass one and done pass, and like, how many times did you torch ahead at the Inderley? I mean, I feel like you'd win the championship, you'd take first hook, and you'd blow it out the end, and there'd be green and orange flames shooting out, fantastic one and done, and
300
everybody'd be like, "Hell yeah, brother!" Like, you
Yeah,
just knew
fireworks. It was like the
that
fireworks.
that's what was coming.
That
It's the only
pass,
time.
Go ahead.
It's the only time, anytime I ever pulled the mod class that I knew that, hey, we're tearing these sumbitches apart. Let's see how far we can go. And it was
That one
always,
year
it
at
was,
the end, that one year at the Inderley, that thing, like at 290, you see a flash, right? Big old ball of fire, and then it takes off, and you go another 100 feet just mowing them down. I remember
Yeah.
walking around the tractor after that pass because everybody was talking about it. You could have stuck your hand where it torched the head. It was so. I mean, it was a huge area that
Yeah.
it came out of where it torched it. It was awesome.
Bill, back on the
Yeah.
pull-off conversation, you've seen all pull-offs when it's 300 foot. You've seen when it was the top three come back. You see now where it's very rare. What would be your suggestion for an ideal balance between fan engagement and good competition? If it was you,
Well,
you're making all the rules.
okay, if I had Earl Wells money and I could buy the NTPA, we would have 350-foot tracks and try to set it, that'd be the minimum length. And still have pull-offs, but not have 8 of them out the end or whatever, Friday night at Bowling Green. Can I talk about how difficult my Bowling Green was this year?
Talk about whatever you want.
You can talk about whatever you want, man.
You can tell us
Um,
what you had for lunch. I don't care.
No, well, Bowling Green this year, the first day in the light mod, I make a full pull and Simons make a full pull, but I ate up a fuel pump. I've never ate up a fuel pump in my entire life, but it gutted it, so I couldn't make the pull off there. The next day, I shouldn't even talk about this because it sounds like I'm whining, and I am.
You
But
can whine.
the
It's
first,
Was it a rage?
Laura will
Was it
tell
a
you.
rage or a Waterman?
It was a.
There's
It
a lot
was
of there's a lot of rage pumps getting ate up this year.
it was a Fowler pump, which is supposedly a Waterman.
Oh, that is a Waterman and Earp.
Yeah, but so then in the but I make the next day. I'm second hook. The first guy goes 243 feet,
Nice.
and then they say, "Well, we're going to watch one more." And I've learned from now on, if they're going to watch one more, I should just drop 6. But I've never done that in my entire life. So I went 310 feet, and I'm thinking, well, the sled's set.
Yeah.
I get back around there, and they lightened the sled up. Why would you lighten a
Oh.
sled up when the second hook guy goes 310 feet?
Well,
So
Bill,
then, so then,
How pissed,
I
Bill?
dropped it. Huh?
I said, how pissed?
Yeah. So that was bad enough. I dropped the end of class, and so they lightened it up. The next guys to pull was your guest from last time, and they blew it out the end. But nobody else got close after that. That Bowling Green track just went to hell, and I was last in the class, and I did everything I could. But if they'd have left it alone, I probably would have ended up second, and Simons were back there 7th or 8th, so I wouldn't have beat him in the points, but it'd have made it a lot closer. So anyway, that night in the mod class, they set the track at 350. Bowlingers go 354. They pull 5 more tractors that didn't get close. I'm number 6 tractor, and Brad had just got done redoing my chassis and getting all my weights to the front where I needed them and everything. So I made a really pretty pass and went to like 370 and backed out of it. And I asked Doty, I said, "Are they going to change that?" He said, "Oh, no, they're not going to change it." He says, "They know you made a good pass and everything." Because if he said they were going to change it, I was going to back right up, fueled up, and go again.
Oh, yeah.
So, so I get on the scales and they announce, "Well, we decided we're going to change the sled and start over." Well, then I couldn't get back to the starting line. So twice at Bowling Green, I was leading hook and they'd started the class over. So I don't know if Marvin just didn't like me that day or what, but Marvin does
well,
a good job.
I think Joe Etter got one of those here last year. He
He
made
got-
a stellar run at Toma, and they reset the sled, and he couldn't come back because I think he had like a clutch issue or tore something up on one of the engines, and or maybe
Well, it was
he was
Friday
able
night
to
at
come
Bowling.
back.
Friday night at Bowling Green, Bowling Green crew was wanting a pull off. So if they'd have left it alone, there'd have probably been 4 or 5 out. It'd still been less than pulling the 6 first tractors over again. But
They did, like I said, they did that at Toma. Joe made a really killer pass, and then I think 294 was like the winning distance, and it's like, guys, you
Yeah.
just killed the class, man. You can't
Yeah.
do that.
I
You
shouldn't
gotta
have
let
got
them
off.
go.
But in my entire life, I've never jumped the flagman about starting a class over anything. I did for Denny Morrison when we went to Centerville. Denny's been helping me for years, and I said, shoot, he needs a chance to run this tractor. So we went to Centerville. We only weighed 6,500 pounds. The class was 7,500, and first couple tractors went 260, 270, and Denny hooks on. He goes 350. So then they said they was going to start the class over, and I said, "Man, we are not coming back. I'm not doing this again." And thank God Marvin wasn't there because they didn't start the class over, and then we ended up winning it by 50 feet. So
it's
Denny
kind of
Morrison's got a much better pulling record than I do. He's pulled once and won. So
It's
and
kind
we
of
were
ironic
1,000
that you
pounds
say
light.
that, though. That you say, need to make 2 passes to win, but not 2 if you make a good one first.
Right. Right.
I'm just saying what
No,
some
that's
people
true.
would say. I believe that we need pull-offs. I like them. I really do. Because I don't run. I feel like I run my stuff conservative enough that I always have in the back of my mind, to make another pass. Because that's where I came from. We always used to have pull-offs.
What's your
And
all
it's
thoughts
disappeared.
collectively on rather than pull offs, just the top 3 distances come back?
I
Oh,
love
that'd
that.
be great.
Is that what they do in Europe? Right? No, they don't do that in Europe. I think it's as simple as we can call a pull off. Whoever goes the 3 furthest distances come back, even if it's fucking 290 or something.
I guess I would. I'd be all favor of that as long as the 3 pullers are within 50 feet each other. I wouldn't want 2 guys that are real close and then some guy that's 60
Yeah.
feet back. coming into it or something.
Yeah, I can agree with that. Kind of like the old rule, it was like the top 3 past 300.
300, yeah.
Yeah.
I disagree with that, Bill, but it's also a situation where I think rarely, if there's early competitors in a class that have an advantage that are way out there, then someone can sneak in late at the end and kind of evens them up. Every situation's unique, but
Yeah.
I think that's what's cool about it too. If you can just squeaker in the top 3, if you get a bad number, you could do it again. But I think we're all on the same page. There's a lot of probably improved ways we could do this potentially.
And then
What if you got
everybody
10
goes
of them?
for
What if you got 10 of them that are 330 feet plus and they're only 3 feet apart? You're only going to take the top 3 and let the other 7 sit.
Just hang in
That's
there,
right.
hang your throttle a little longer, Bill.
that's
Yeah.
why I continue to say, like, for the entertainment value of pulling, in my mind, why is Louisville so successful? Because there's a sand pile at the end and everybody knows how far you have to go to hit it. Everybody knows that in the line, in the sand is the finish line, right? And it brings an excitement. It's kind of difficult and it's very hard to set a sled. I completely understand that. But I think also the fact that they have made the distances longer, it makes it harder to set the sled, because if a guy gets a perfect pass, he may go 370. And if you don't get the sled going just right, you're going 280, and
Yeah.
and then that's where it throws in at the beginning of the class. The guy goes 280, he just didn't make a good hook and get the sled going, and the next guy goes way out there. Then they're throwing a. I've seen lots of classes ruined by sled changes, good and bad. Like, they've made classes way worse by killing them, and they've let them go way too long. I mean, they just keep going and going and going.
And
It's
to
it's
echo-
very hard to do.
To echo Todd, our fan Todd, there's comment. People like to see pull-offs, and that I was just getting ready to say this. I've heard from fans that don't like watching a lot of one thing. I've heard of fans that hate short distance pulls. I heard of fans that hate everything, but I've never met a fan that doesn't like a pull-off. So
That is true.
Right.
I know obviously financially money's the comeback on that, and then we need to figure out ways to get more money in a pull, and that's the common sense of everything we can say all night. But I think from the fans in the stands and the people watching that aren't there, I think pull-offs are good for pulling however you get there. So maybe somebody will listen to this podcast and we can make it the Bill Voreis rule one day.
Careful, we manifest a lot of things on this podcast, and they start to.
No,
happen.
nobody watches this.
Bill Voreis wants pull-offs. Will we get them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love pull-offs. I've never turned down a pull-off. I kind of miss the days when and I kind of wish it would still be that way at like Grand Nationals, where you would have 2 qualifying days, and maybe not have pull-offs that day, but in the finals, make sure there's a pull-off that day. So like,
So kind of like
so
what
if there's
Simon
20
did.
tractors, you pull twice, and the top 10 combined from both days would come back for the finals.
Yep.
But then that kind of screws up the whole point system and everything. But
That
You
thought
got to
process
qualify
is,
your way in there, though. That's part of
yeah,
the.
and that's the way I feel about it. If you qualify in, you get points the other guys don't get.
It's essentially what Simons and their poll this summer are doing. I think Tyler, I took that away from you, but you got to finish the top 10 to qualify for Saturday, and they have two preliminary rounds. I think is how they're determining them. Bill, what's your thoughts on that poll and that concept? I know you won't be there competing, but fire away with any feedback you have for that.
Well, love Simons to death, and I appreciate what they're doing. I don't want to get to where if I'm going to win money, I got to put the money up. And here's a couple of ways to look at it. I've been going to Bowling Green since 1979. And every year, everybody bitches. Bowling Green doesn't pay enough money. They should pay more money with the crowd to get and everything. But then the people at Bowling Green see guys spending that kind of money to enter, and basically the promoter's not having to put up any money, or not near what they'd have to. I just wonder how other polls are going to look like that. And I think it's in it, and I feel just like, can't think of their names, your guest from last week, like he wasn't,
Brent Payne.
Payne.
yeah, Brent Payne. Think the world of Brent Payne. I kind of feel like he does. not real crazy about it, but if Roger called me and said, you want to put up $10,000 up and run your light mod, would you do it? Yeah, I'll give you 10 grand, I'll run, but I don't want that to be,
The
so
normal.
that's the competitive side of it. You want to be there, you know what I'm saying? But I would much rather see, like, let's say for the Unlimited and the mods, at the beginning of the season, all the competitors in that class have a chance if they want to put 10,000 in or 20,000 in a pool. And then at the end of the year, at the Interleague, so if there's 10 guys that put money in, if they don't make the Interleague, okay, they've lost their money. But at the Interleague, then you pull, whoever wins the Interleague gets the first place, second, third place. But the advantage of running all season, it's not down to like, you know, you have a bad hook at the one pull where you put a lot of money and then you're just kind of out of it. It's kind of how you do for the whole season. That's the way I'd kind of like to see it done.
Okay.
And I know the
So
Unlimited guys that throw 20
so
grand in like it's nothing. So
so Bill, so if you're saying like you are about, pullers basically putting up the money for the prize money, have you really had a chance to break down the galaxy thing that NTPA has now? Isn't that
that's the first thing I thought when I read it was kind of the same thing,
same thing? The pullers are putting in more money for basically
But
more purse money.
it sounds like they're going to have, and boy, I hate to talk about something I haven't studied too much. I've already joined it, but it sounds like they're going to try and come up with some other money also, are they not?
I think they are. They've done it a little bit better actually this year. I got fourth in the points. I was surprised by the purse money I had. To be honest with you, I've seen some years where we've done really good, and you go up there and you're really surprised in a bad way about how the money looked. Which we all know it isn't about the money, but it sure helps, to get up and down the road or how whatever people
Easier to
want to
run pull
say.
off, right?
It's
Well,
it's it's not about the money, but it kind of is. In 1981, we had Wrangler, and that was the year I won my first Grand National Championship in a pro stock. My points money was like $8,000. This is 1981.
yeah,
Um, when I won those 6 championships in a row, I don't think I ever got. I might have got 9,000. But so you're talking 2010 from 1981. That's
Yeah.
30 years.
So the equivalent I just checked, and $8,000 in 1981 is the equivalent of almost $28,000 in today's money, adjusted for inflation. So that kind of tells you right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
But
calculator doesn't do too well, does it?
no, but we're all our own worst enemies. I mean,
It is true.
every,
Nobody's telling us to push things this hard. I mean,
I don't think there's anything on my tractor that's not billet other than the spark plug wires
right.
um, and the carbon fiber stuff. Um, but you got to have it.
you got to
Um,
have it.
You gotta have it.
As well.
got to
You
have
gotta
it.
have it.
You've
It
talked.
costs just as much to haul a second place tractor around as it does the winner. So you might as well try to win because it's going to cost you just as much to get there to haul that last place tractor as it does that first place tractor.
Bill,
That's
that's why
Probably
I'm
more.
building two new tractors because I was tired of running good with one and not the other one. And not that we didn't run good with all of them at times, but um, I definitely don't go to finish any worse than third place with all three. So
Well, just
definitely
being
want to
around
run.
brands like I have, um, it amazes me how many changes there have been in the mini rod chassis in the last 5 years. Is there anybody running that class of a 5-year-old chassis anymore?
I was until I decided when I looked at the I bet Tyler, when you look at it, I looked at my tractor last year in the red tractor, which I always thought was my best tractor, and it still hooks really hard, and it's very competitive. But I looked at the final the finish sheet, and I'm like, shit, that tractor was built in 2016, and it's the oldest thing on the track. It's time to
Yeah,
do something else.
I'd have to.
So
I'd have to look back at how old mine is, but I want to think it's a 6 years old or something like that. But that doesn't mean I haven't had it on the chassis table since then, and I haven't been tweaking on it
Had
and
surgery a
adjusting
few
it.
times.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the way I screw stuff up, it's inevitable surgery, really, just to keep it operable. But it's not like we just bought it, threw it on the track, and haven't had it back on the jig since. So
When I won them 6 championships in a row, I had 3 brand new chassis in that time. I mean,
that's wild. So
Kept new rails underneath it, huh?
well, we would just build. I'd never changed rails. We just put everything new.
Oh,
Because
gotcha.
there's always little things I wanted different and everything, and Brad wasn't near as busy back then as he is now. I tell you,
Yeah.
Brad traveled with me that whole time. I
oh, I
mean,
know. I remember you
I
guys. He
mean,
was at like every pull with you.
every pull. And if he couldn't make the Greenville one year, and he made sure Brian McDonald was there to spot the sled for me and stuff. It just, I can't say enough about, you know, Brad. And what I like about Brad, he's done a lot of work for me. But if I walked in there and said, "Hey, tell these guys to wait, build me something," he won't do
Won't
that.
do it.
And
Will
that's what I
not do it.
like about it. You wait your turn. It doesn't care if you bought 100 or one. He's really good about it. I've never seen him play favorites, and he was trained by the best, Ralph Banner. I mean, and Brad, when Ralph would build me a tractor, if you needed a brake pedal, he'd grab a piece of tubing, chop it off, weld a piece of steel on it was on there. If you wanted pretty, he always said, "We don't do pretty here, we do winning." Well, Brad was the first one that ever did pretty for me,
Yeah. Right.
and I just, and there's a lot of good people in Poland. I think the world of Tim England and everything, but I tell you what, Brad has been amazing to me.
So, Bill, you mentioned your 6 championships and your year of basically being undefeated. And a lot of people talk about Joe Etter's winning streak, but I've heard a lot of people behind the scenes say that they arguably think you have a larger, more impressive win streak than Joe Etter. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh boy, I don't like to get in
Shots.
pissing contest or whatever. Here's
Bill,
what
we're
I'll
here
say.
for pissing. Give us your thoughts, damn it.
From the start of '07 till the end of '08, including Louisville and everything, I only lost one pull, and that was at Saluda. I was second hook, and they made the track super wet, and I went out there and wasn't going to win. But that's the only one I lost in 2 years.
Now, when you say lost, you just simply mean not getting first, for clarity.
Not
correct?
getting first. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big difference here for us layman's folks. So we got to break this down. So sorry to interrupt you, but
There's
go
only
on.
one time I'm gonna get first.
Yeah.
And and that's Enderleys and everything. I know Joe had that one perfect year, but I think didn't your dad win the Enderley that year?
I believe so.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
And not knocking Joe Etter, but I had a
So-
pretty good streak in there.
So you think you got him, Bill? Just to be clear.
No.
Come on, Bill.
We're not
a lot
doing
of people
this.
are saying it, Bill. I'm just saying.
Bill,
No.
the 6 straight titles, that was in the Unlimited class only?
Yes.
No.
I've never won a mod, and I really would like to.
Have you ran a full mod points chase?
In the first year I ran, 1999, I ended up second in the mod, and I ended up second in the unlimited. Gardner and I were like, he'd had 6 wins, I'd had 7, but I spun a tire and a rim in Hamburg, which put him up ahead of me, and I could never get it back. But Gardner was king for a long time.
But
He
you've
was.
never really chased during that 6-year run, you didn't really chase a mod championship.
No, but I did Ralph a favor. He kept saying, "You need to run the mod at Bowling Green." So I took a motor off and run the mod with a championship on the line, and did it several times. But no.
Do you think the 3 engine against the 4 is an equal in the class for the modified?
Current climate conditions.
Current conditions.
What I think would make that class perfect is make it 7,200 pounds.
Ooh.
Oh, make it difficult for the 4 engines.
Yeah, and it'd still be difficult for the 3. It's going to take some weight from them too, but I think it would kind of even it up. But if they would do that, the first thing I'd do is put 4 Chevys on one
Oh,
because they're lighter than the Hemis are. So
See, Bill, but that's one thing you don't understand is back in the day when Schrammich had the 6-engine tractor with the 6 Chevys on it, right?
yep.
We went up to Angler's, and Brian's the one who brought it up, but we went up there and picked up one of his engines, and we took it apart, and we weighed every single part of that engine, and we made the MBR engine light enough to where you could put 6 of them on the tractor. Problem was the check, right? So I don't think he wanted to spend that extra money to do it. But like even like I would say like Simon's instance, if we took that tractor there and converted all the engines over to 10.2, we would save about 30 pounds an engine if we converted them over. So I mean, you start looking at that, it's possible. It's very possible.
What
But-
we're saying here, Bill, is you've had 2, you've had 3, 4, and 5. How about 6?
Right? Oh, we can do that. Yeah, true.
I would love to have 6. I've put this. I think we need a 9,200 pound class. That's 6 motors, but make it where I'd make it where they had to run 1471s
Okay.
and run them at like 10 or 12% over.
Is there a rear
Big
end that can
chase
hold
move.
it?
Big chase move. Low overdrive.
Yeah. Well, and I'd put an RPM limit of 8,000 in there.
Is there a rear end that can
That'll
hold it?
be antique pulling, Bill.
Maybe. You got to remember, I'm an antique, but now hear me out here. You could run them motors 40 passes, and they would live.
Right.
And you could have, and the crowd would love it. Everybody misses the 6-engine thing, and you could have pull-offs. You could have pull-offs, and the other thing I would do, I wouldn't let them run Midas tires. I'd make them run like Pro Puller 8 plies or 10 plies, something that doesn't hook as hard. And then I think Vaughn could start them as easy as the Unlimited class, and I think they'd get down the track quicker and they'd be easier to get hooked up and stuff. But this is just my stupid idea. I know Wayne Purser and I talked about it, and Brett Berg and I talked about it, and I said I'd do it in a minute.
Mercer's doing it though, right?
Easy.
Yeah, but he's going to put 8 on it.
He's putting 8 engines on it.
Bill, dropping news. Bill, tell us what you're talking about there. This is a big deal.
But as far as what now?
What you
Stratcher.
just mentioned, you kind of buried the lead there. Purser's putting 8 engines on a tractor.
Yeah,
Exhibition.
and Wayne and I talked about this several years ago that we needed to have something like this. 6 engines. Now, Wayne, I think, until they make a class, he's doing it for, he wants to just go places and get paid to make passes and stuff.
He's a monster truck.
Yeah,
So,
but I think it'd be a good show.
Do you think the
Will the rear
axle
end
will
hold it? The only
Yeah.
question I have is, will the rear end of Planetaries hold it? If you
And
If
at
you-
that power level, at the power level, I think they would be easier than what the Unlimited is now.
If you took
you're
Mitos tires off, I'd say that would
You're-
loosen
you're-
her up a little bit too.
You're basically saying Wayne's going to have them so detuned that the rear end will live better than what the 4 and 5 engine guys are doing.
Well, Wayne doesn't even have your dad's rear end in it, Chase, and so I don't know how he's going to hold it anyway. But
It's a
So now it
Franklin.
won't
because
hold.
if he's got 8 motors, he's going to weigh more than 9,000 pounds.
Oh
So,
yeah.
yeah.
Hey,
But
you got to
that's,
give it to Wayne. I seen it a couple years ago when he was running the 5 with the 18s. He took the oil filters off of those things. He just plumbed the oil pump right
Oh, yeah.
into because the oil
We
filter
did
weighs
that
too
too
much.
back in the
Yeah.
day with the 5 engine to make weight. Yeah. Screw
oil
oil
filters off of
filters.
You don't need them.
Bill, go ahead.
that's another thing I need to thank Bruce for. He never jacked around with me about reweighing and all that shit, all them years of the Unlimited. Your dad never accused me of being heavy or anything. I mean, Bruce was straight up. He just run, Gosh, LD had me reweighing so many times. He made the whole class reweigh at Fort Recovery one time because he said there's no effing way that he's not heavy, So they weighed the whole
Yeah.
class, and I was like 40 pounds light, and all my fuel tanks were full. And I took a fuel jug and a funnel and put up there and just poured 5 gallons of fuel on the scales, and they said, "Well, I think we're full." So and then went back, but
These
everybody
departments like to
always
have-
has an excuse why the other guys won, but mostly,
Yeah.
but and LD was a lot of fun. So.
He was for sure.
Speaking of old rivalries, tell us about back in the day running against Don Masterson, the Masterson team, and some of those stories. And obviously, you all are both from Indiana, but I've heard that it was quite the rivalry from third party. But I'd like to hear your perspective on it.
Don and I became great friends from probably 2003 or 4 on. But I'm pretty sure, and if you ask Kevin, I'm pretty sure he hated me in the 80s. And I think the world of Don Mass, one of the most upstanding, straight up guys you'd ever meet. But I remember took that tractor to Brett and put all that new sheet metal on it, and I had to drive all night to get southern Indiana down there, Tampico or something. I can't remember what it was.
Tampico.
And Tampico, and I won the first class. And everybody comes up, congratulates me, and Don come up and congratulate. He says, "Man, that tractor's ugly." He says, "Your other tractor looked a whole lot better than that." He didn't hide the way he felt, But no, Don is the man that started Pro Stock. I mean, I was in there in the beginning, but Don was in there before. But I mean, now that Kevin's got that dyno and everything, man, I tell you what, they got some stout stuff,
Well, that was gonna be my next.
Well, there's 54 of them that are stout. I love that Pro Stock class. I really
that
do.
was going to be my next lead into my next question. What's your opinion and take on the current state of pro stock pulling? It's obviously super competitive. Obviously here in Louisville, the red tractors kind of had a coming out party. I know you were a red guy for a lot of years, and it's predominantly been a green tractor class. But what's your opinions on the current pro stock class, and what's your thoughts on the resurgence of the red tractors?
Well, I think it's great. But the deers just need what the red guys did. They got a better cylinder head, and I'm sure they're working on it. I'm no engine guru, but the bore spacing on a deer is quite a bit bigger than international. So I would think there'd be ways to mess around and get the valves more unshrouded or whatever. But the red ones aren't dominating, but the green guys aren't going to just sit back and watch. When I was at Louisville this year and we was talking about it, Chris Little, another guy I used to pull with, great guy. He says, "Man, I'm glad these red tractors are running better." He says, "I hope they win a lot more." I said, "Be careful what you wish for, Chris, because they're coming." But it's an expensive class,
Yeah, I've heard it's arguably at times more expensive than an unlimited. I mean, which is
I think they work
wild.
just as hard. I think they work just as hard.
And my gosh, do they look pretty as well?
Oh, Chaos, Lemke's, they all do beautiful work, but they raise the hoods on that, and I'm like, man, I couldn't afford the polishing, let alone all the other stuff, So if I had one, I'd have to keep the hood down so nobody'd see my painted pipes or or whatever, But
then they would just think you had hidden secrets in there, and you'd get the
yeah,
attention even more.
they'd be
for sure.
accusing me of cheating again. So, but
Yeah. Have you ever been protested, Bill?
oh yeah,
But-
yeah. Back in the diesel days.
Oh,
The only,
okay.
I wish I'd have got paid for all the protests for weight in the Unlimited, but I think I could I could have made a lot more money from the weight protest. And I was never the heaviest tractor, um, but they picked on me a lot. So,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
it's
I can
fun.
remember.
It's fun. I don't hold it against any of them. I don't hold it against any of them.
What's your thoughts on protest, Bill? You think the sport needs more of it, or think it's it's been a topic here the last few episodes? It's nothing a lot of people have really pushed the envelope on as of late, but I mean, obviously it's something we've talked about. So, do you think it's something we should see more of, or
Well, here's my thoughts. First place, the Louisville thing, and I
Yeah,
respect everybody. That's the stupidest freaking thing they could have ever done. I mean, you got Mike Witt dealing with thousands of people trying to get into the farm show, running tractors in and out of it there every day. You run against, and I'm just calling them clowns, your whole class. You run against them clowns all summer. It's not like Simon's ran like dog shit all summer. I mean, they've always run good. If you had a problem, don't do it at Louisville. One thing, it's not even a sanctioned poll. You've got two organizations there. I'm scared to death that Witt's going to say screw the mod class and not run them anymore. As much as I like smoke, I could very well see him putting a 5.0 class in there and just leaving the mods at home.
Don't give him any
And
ideas, Bill.
uh, and it's
Don't give him any ideas.
and it was kind of a bush league thing, you know. Somebody crawling under your tractor and measuring shit. That just ain't right. That's not right. And then my other thing is, I think our memberships should be $500 more than they are now. And they need to have a very stringent tech. And I mean, measure rotor lengths, measure rotor twist, checks, make sure everybody's got their clutch linings, and every
Check
once in a while, just hit them up, check them over. You know, we
Chase
don't do
can't
that.
even check his own rotor length in his blower, so I don't know how that's going to happen.
I bet they'd figure out a way. You can, if you take the injector off, you can figure it out pretty quick.
Can't do that. It's airplane wired together.
They'll work around it. They check them at NHR races. I'm sure that the Chuck Ford
that
ones
is
get
true.
checked just like everybody else's
Oh,
does.
yeah. I'm sure he does.
That is
yeah.
true.
But I'm not, I
Bill,
mean, all of them, you know, it's just like them guys in the diesel classes saying that little cross bothers their flow and they're cutting them out and stuff. But, you know, that shit should not be allowed. That ought to be a 10-year disqualification, in my opinion. So you start
yeah, I'd agree with that. I mean,
skipping
you
on
gotta,
safety stuff.
yeah, for sure, for sure. Last episode that you were commenting on, the topic of fuel injection had come up, and you had made the comment that nobody's defending the gray-haired guys, and that kind of sparked to us saying, "Well, damn it, get on here and defend the gray-haired guys." So, on the topic of fuel injection, give us all there is to know about your opinion on it.
Well, okay. I'm not a big fan of the electronic stuff. Let's
Do you
talk
have
about
a
they want
race
to
back?
combine. Huh?
Do you have a
Do I have
raceback data logger?
I don't have anything. I don't even have a tack.
I love it. I love it. Sorry to interrupt you. Go on. I
So,
just wanted to drive that point home.
yeah. I just read plugs. Um, we, everybody wants to combine the diesels and the Alky supers. Um, I don't know how you do it. The Alky supers are 650. The one organization is allowed to have electronic fuel injection. The Alky supers are allowed to have overhead cams. The diesels aren't. And the only way I could see you could ever combine that class is the Alky class would have to make some huge changes. And Ross's Colin, I mean, they run amazing in that diesel, but about 3 or 4 passes and it's ready for some work. If I'm wrong, Colin can give me hell about it, but they're leaning on all they got, and I don't think the Alco guys are pushing them as hard as they can go yet.
So
So,
you
but
think you think Colin leans on his harder than what the alcohol guys do?
I
That's
think
what you're saying.
when he's running against Al, he's got everything he's going to get out of that tractor, and I don't think
Okay.
the Alky guys are there. I guess I don't want to see electronic fuel injection. And you guys know more about drag racing. They don't allow it on blower motors in drag racing either, do they? Electronic fuel injection. You
Yes, they
guys
do.
know?
Yeah, they
Yeah,
do.
they
Do they?
Pro mod.
Yeah.
Yep.
But you got your guys like Stevie Fast that, correct me if I'm wrong, Chase, doesn't even run it. He still runs a mechanical fuel injection.
No, he runs it. He runs it.
He does?
Yep. I
Well,
think
he
pretty well
talked a
every
lot of
team out.
smack about it for a lot of years.
Oh, he runs it. I'm not to say he runs all the time. I think he goes back and forth, but that car he's
Okay.
tuning now has it on it for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
I stand
I
corrected
can
then.
see where it probably would save money if you have something that would, do they adjust fuel to ports and everything with that while they're going down
Oh,
the
yeah.
track and stuff?
They get a laptop and plug it in and push some buttons. I think it does it all for them.
Yeah,
They
we don't
have
need
stuff.
that.
They have stuff now in like a top dragster. I don't know how far it goes into the other ranks, but like in a top dragster, which is a dial-in class, right? It's like a 6 flat or whatever, 620, whatever the number is. But they put O2 sensors in the pipes, just like a car, and it adjusts according to anything. You know, if you have any changes in an exhaust coming out, it knows too lean, too rich, knows how to shut things down, turn things on. It's kind of like it's kind of like your car going out there. You drive it here in Indiana and you drive up into Colorado. There's always that adjustment that needs to be made for altitude and stuff. But the guys say it makes it super simple to run an engine, and it never fails. Which
Well, I think
mechanically,
there should be something.
Yeah, I mean, I get it, man. I love mechanical stuff. I really do. I love the idea. I don't even run a computer on my stuff, so I take pride in knowing that I can make the engine run good without having to have somebody or something tell me that oh, it's got to be this number to be right or whatever. But I think that's what makes our sport pretty cool. But you also lose interest with younger kids because that's all they associate with now is the new electronic stuff too. So.
Well, when they took the 6-shooter away, I thought that was a good thing, and I think the person, I like the part that the person needs to know how to tune these motors and stuff besides drive,
Mm-hmm.
So,
I think
For
that's
sure.
something I said the last show, but I think pulling can gain some value by being the only mechanical motorsport there is out there at some point. The rest of these are pretty well all removed themselves from it, but that's just my opinion.
yeah, like I said, I don't even have a race pack. I don't even have a tack. I've only got one gear. What's it gonna do if I'm not running fast enough? So,
So, Bill,
Very well
this is a
said.
question I got to ask. People, you've been hauling your stuff up and down the road for a long time. Do you have a memorable travel story that like sticks with you? Anything that's been exciting or a standout in all the years that you've been driving up and down the road and traveling? Have you ever had a story that you would like to share?
I was in a pull-off at Chapel Hill with Gardner Stone, and I had two barrel valve linkages fall loose, and I won, but I had two motors. I mean, that got burned up pretty bad. So I'm like, well, I got to get this when we're going to Canada. So I said, well, I got to get this thing home and so I can do something with these motors, just make them where they got a little, not completely zero on the lake down. But so we're going up 65 um, and I look back, I feel something jerk on the trail. This is when I had a toter home in that 48-foot Renegade trailer. And I look back and I see a tire and wheels shooting down the road and then just smoke pouring out from underneath my trailers. So I pull off right in an exit, past the exit next to an overpass. And I go back and the axle has come out from underneath the trailer
Oh,
on
shoot.
one side and
Nice.
and it's wedged under the trailer.
Of course.
And so then a Tennessee state cop comes up and really good guy. And I showed him, I said, I got to find somebody to get a record, get this thing cut out of there. I said, I don't have a torch or anything. So I and of course, this is, I think, on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I was lucky enough to catch a guy, um, and he came in a dually truck with a welder and some jacks, and he has a back brace on, and I'm thinking, oh my God, how's this guy going to work on this thing? Well, and and the whole time he's under there, the state cops trying to keep the trucks from running us over. I mean, literally, they're giving us no room, and all I can hear is this state cop going, "Them motherfuckers!" He's he's on his hand radio and he's calling down the road. He says, "Pull over this truck, pull over that truck." He's trying to run everybody over, and the whole time this guy's cutting away, this cop's cussing and just going nuts. And he says, "People wonder why I hate truck drivers. They need to see what's going on." But this guy gets this all cut out of there, and of course I know I can't get the thing home. Well, this kid father-in-law has a gooseneck trailer, open, you know. So we load the tractor on this gooseneck trailer, and he's got his new wife and baby, and he follows me all the way to my place
Oh shit.
and unloads that tractor. And I asked him, I said, "How much do I owe you?" He says, "Is $400 too much?" I gave him $2,000. I said, "See what you got," because he had fallen off a roof, and this is the job he was going to take over on his disability, you know. So then on Monday, I'm calling a Renegade. I said, "Hey, I got a trailer here that's only got 2 axles under it, and if the other two are like that one." And I can't remember what days we pulled up there in St. Hyacinth, but I took it to Renegade. Huh?
I said
Do
it
you
was
guys remember
brutal,
what?
that tight schedule. Yeah,
Yeah,
running
we
from
had to get.
Chapel Hill to
I
St.
took it to
Ives.
Renegade. They put 3 brand new air axles on that thing and had it back to me Monday night.
Wow.
And we loaded the tractor up within 2 junk motors and went to St. Hyacinth, and somehow I won up there, and I don't
I
know
think I
how. But
think I think they pulled on Wednesday, but like you only had a
yeah,
day or two to get there,
Yeah.
and it was
yeah,
27 hours there. I
yeah.
mean, it was brutal. Only reason I know this because I blew up at Chapel Hill one year, and like as everybody's leaving, they're like, "Hey, see you up there," and we're just like, "Oh my god, this is
There's
terrible." It's like
always Chapel Hill.
27 hours. Just
Yeah.
One
brutal.
year we're coming out of Chapel Hill and pull into a rest area, and there's Esden with a sawzall. He had a tire wrapped up around his axle. So Danny had helps me. He's built like a, and he gets under there and helps Esden get that all cut off. It took him like 3 hours, and they got it cut off and got him another tire on there, and then we headed to Canada. But the one time that we were coming back, and there was that real bad accident where eight people got killed, and we're sitting there with Vaughn. Of course, we knew we wasn't going to pull until Vaughn got there, but we were with Vaughn and LD and everybody, and we sat there for 8 or 9 hours before they got that road opened up, and had to drive all the way up. But that was the worst time when that axle come out from underneath the trailer. But that's just one of them deals where I was just lucky, you know. Renegade actually got the thing in, put new axles under it, and that kid was there because nobody else wanted to touch it, you know. That job on Sunday.
Well, I'm glad you had issues because we popped an axle out of one. I swear we've had more problems up and down the road than about anybody. But I try to share some of the stories because I try to find a little bit of comedy in all of them. Like the year that we had to we had to go meet Chase when he blew out a steer tire. We'd actually had stopped earlier, and Clay Chastain had blew a tire on the trailer with the 2-wheel drive in it. And this guy shows up in a box truck, and we all get out, and it was a shit show to say the least. But the guy gets out, and he's got an air compressor in there, and it's a gas powered air compressor. So uh, we started looking around while this guy's working on stuff, and the exhaust pipe is ran right next to the gas fill on the tank, and I'm just going, we need to get the fuck away from this thing. Well, we have some problems here. That guy, we all kind of stepped back. The guy's over there with something with the air impact, and the crimped collet on the air hose pulls off the hose and starts whipping around and hits him in the face like 4 or 5 times. He's bleeding all over his face, trying to trying to catch that hose and stuff, and we're just like, holy shit, we're not calling this guy if we have problems. But he got us back going again and stuff. So like, it's just amazing to me. Like the travel stories to me it just kills me because we've had more problems than most, but it's kind of cool. Like the help that you get, but some of the stories you get from it too. It's pretty comical.
For sure. Bill, tell us about this picture here and how that day went. And for our audio only listeners, describe what we're looking at here.
That's when we were going to Saluda in 07. We stopped at DEI. A good friend of mine, Eric Wakeland, works there. He still works in NASCAR. And we unloaded the tractor and we started all 5 motors. And then they took the picture of Dale Jr.'s car. And Dale Jr., I autographed 4 of them pictures for me. I had them framed and everything, and he autographed them, which was pretty nice of him. But the engine shop guys just couldn't believe that they had 5 blown motors on the tractor. And we started it, and it made so much noise that Teresa called down and wanted to know what the hell the racket was and what's going on. So, but
I love it.
that was a pretty special day for us. So,
Oh, that's pretty awesome. When I think of your 5-engine tractor, that's definitely one of the pictures that comes to mind. I see like on Facebook, you kind of follow NASCAR somewhat, and like the most exciting thing for me in NASCAR the last couple of years, and for a lot of people, was that Ross Chastain move up against the fence to pass people on the final lap of the race. And what are your thoughts on a move like that? And do you feel like there's some sort of loophole similar to that to be exposed in pulling just one time before they make a rule against it in the same manner?
well, I hope I never try to get extra distance running down the guardrail or anything. But,
If there was a way you could do it, I bet you'd try it, Bill.
if it meant I win, I would, yeah. But
Darn right.
um, I got to hand it to Ross Chastain. He did something that I'm sure some guys thought about doing, but didn't think it was worth it. I think NASCAR pushed it a little too far when they disqualified Byron at that one where he bumped up against the rail for a little bit. But NASCAR's, I like NASCAR. I like Kyle Busch. Everybody hates Kyle Busch. I think he's great because you can't hate a guy he likes to win and he doesn't like losing. I'm a loose. I'm probably the loser you'll ever meet. I don't blame everybody else, but I beat myself up and I'm grumpy and stuff. So there's nothing wrong with wanting to win.
That is true. What is the one pull looking back on where you're like, if I could have had that win, that's the one I wanted that I never got?
I'm going to ruin one of my questions here, but
Oh, well, you don't need to do that.
no, I'll answer it.
Probably the Italy this year.
That pull off at Canfield where my coupler came apart. If I'd have made that, I'd have won 7 championships in a row, and I kind of really wanted 7. But that's probably the one I look back on because that was just me being lazy on maintenance. Last pull of the year, that thing looked good last time, and you don't look at the things that never give you trouble, and that coupler came apart. That's probably the one that
Hurts the most.
bothers me.
I can see that. Who got the win that day?
You know what? I don't even remember because Archers couldn't make the pull off, but but they ended up winning the points.
I was going to say while you're trying to decide whether or not what pull you're most disappointed in, was it the Inderly this year when you probably couldn't sleep because the music was blaring all night?
Actually, if my ears aren't bleeding, the music's not loud enough. So
hell yeah!
As long as you're not playing country or some stupid ass rap thing.
Well.
Okay.
Adam might have been playing stupid ass rap though, Bill. Could
You know,
hear it?
dude, that was a very long night. I think the funkin' grooving guys took over at some point in time of the
You
night. I
invited
try
me
to keep it
on the podcast,
respectable.
though. You
I try to
invited
keep it respectable. My uncle that I have high praise for was a DJ. You try to make everybody happy. You want to keep the young ones, you know, the oldies, and have a good mix of everything in there. We just like to listen to our music a little bit loud, and I can't help that at times.
Well, that's one reason Brad Corporal and I got along so good traveling. He liked hard ass rock, and I did too. And the louder it was,
Hell
the
yeah.
better. So like if I had trouble staying awake driving, I'd crank it up, and he didn't never bitch because he
There
liked
you
it
go.
too. So,
I love it.
but at the Enderley, I had vertigo so bad.
Really?
Uh, oh man, looking back on it, I shouldn't even have pulled because I made that pass in light unlimited, and right at the end, the tractor did a real hard jump and then off to the right a little bit, and I'm trying to get my bearings, and everything's just freaking spinning, and the flagman's beating on my knee. Do you want this? Do you want this? So finally, everything stopped spinning, and I looked at Denny, and he says, "You don't need to drive that son of a bitch again," because I wanted to drop and go again.
So you
So
had
we kept it.
vertigo. What knocked that loose, as they say?
I woke up 2 days before the inlay and got out of bed and fell right to the floor, and tried to stand up again and went right to the floor. There's some crystals in there that moved
Yeah, you
around,
knocked
and
some
it,
crystals loose.
yeah, but they were loose forever I got to the, and I tried all, I literally didn't get rid of it completely till about 3 weeks ago. I've been going to the specialist, and then I'm in great shape now. So,
My
but it
uncle
was,
was suffering from that bad enough. He got Meniere's, and he got to where with vertigo he got so sick, like he had to put him in the bathroom and like completely dark and lay down and do whatever. But they eventually had to disconnect his eardrum
oh,
to keep
thank
it
God I did not go through.
to settle that problem. Yeah, absolutely.
No, I never threw up or anything, and if I just got to where if I, and I was doing fine that whole run till that last little whip at the end. But as far as you guys, I thought you treated me great. Hell, I was glad you even talked to me. Most people don't like talking to that old fart,
No,
you know.
we're welcome to everybody. I just don't want to make,
Yeah.
you know, it's pretty bad when people are like, oh, I heard the music all night. I don't know if that's a good or bad thing. We were at Chapel Hill one year, and Joe Etter walks over and he says, "Man, Adam, I really like them speakers." I said, "Thanks, Joe." He said, "Yep, I heard them all night." Awesome.
like I say, Adam, it may not be a way to make friends, but you can
Yeah.
definitely make contacts.
That's right.
That's not a statement of endearment, I fear.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, I'm sorry, you might want to park somewhere else, buddy, because my dad, he liked loud music, and I have better speakers than my dad had, so it sounds better.
Bill, question I have. I know Tyler, you got your rapid fires. This has been a great show. Hall of Fame commentary, and a guy that doesn't care to tell you what he thinks is worth a lot.
Love it.
What? So you took you retired from unlimited pulling, and then we saw you return back this year. What kind of made you want to get back in, and then kind of tell us what your plans are for the 2025 season? We expect to see you run the light mod class in the full circuit, and kind of the state of the union for Bill Voreis currently pulling.
Um, I not to go through a lot of stuff, but I went through a lot of cancer in 2020. You know, I had COVID, and then I had cancer. I had 2 cancers, 4 operations. Um, Pretty touch and go there for a while. And then I lost 2 brothers in 1 year, and I thought, and I've always loved pulling. Nobody does this crazy. And I mean, I'm addicted to this shit. And I just really missed it. And I thought, you know what? If I'm healthy enough to do it, I'm going to do it. So um, I was looking at Shelton's tractors in the beginning, and then Simons ended up with my old chassis, and Shelton was great about it. I told him, he says, "Hey, I don't blame you, you know. Um, Go it. I'm not." He said, "I won't be upset or anything," and which I thought was pretty great of him. So then I bought my old chassis back and found some motors, and I mean, if I had to help, I'd run the Unlimited again. But one thing I learned is I can't believe how much less energy I had than I did when I quit in 16. We used to come home, work on motors all week and change oil and everything. And 3 engines wore me out this year. So, but one thing I learned right away is, on Unlimited, when you need brake, you got to hammer on the brake. And the first time in the light Unlimited, when I needed brake, I'd get on the brake really hard, and it turns a lot easier than the Unlimited did. But my plans for this year are, I would like, um, I would like to run the light mod and the mod both.
Oh,
And um, if I can get the help, I need to hire somebody on the farm that would like to go pulling and help out. Um, but I don't think the 3 engines can't win a championship. We're not, it's consistency. I think if they keep the weight at 75, I think I may not win very many, but I can be pretty close. So I'd
Is
like
that what
to,
you say? A true 75?
yeah.
How much
So,
do you think you're running now, like in real weight?
oh, 2 years ago when I was at Louisville, we were at least 300 pounds heavy. Now this year they said they lightened them up quite a bit, but most of the time we're 77. I tell you, at Sandwich, they had to wait really close. We were probably only 50 pounds heavy, um, but I never go up and bitch about the weights or anything because I went through people bitching about my weight for 15 years in the Unlimited, so. Um, but the 4 engine has a little advantage power-wise, I think. But if they keep the weight where it is, the 3 engines have a little advantage balance-wise. I know we're at least a ratio and a half slower than the 4 engine guys are. But
consistency.
You
That's what
see,
wins
so
championships.
you think a 3 engine with 14s is a turn and a half slower gear ratio than what the 4 engine guys are in?
pretty close.
Gotcha. See, I learned something myself tonight. That's why I always ask what gears. So, what gear do you run with 3 engines, Bill? Actually, what gear do you run with 2 engines?
I told you that's what he was wanting to know. That's it.
That's really why
I'd
Chase
have-
put this podcast together.
It's somewhere between 19 and 25.
There
So,
you go. That's a
Good
well
answer.
Hall
Sounds
of
like-
Fame answer.
Those are numbers Chase is really, really good with, too.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
He's
I'm not
right
good
in
with
his
it,
wheelhouse.
I'm not good with any of them, but I can count to 25, I guess.
yeah.
Cool.
27, maybe?
Yeah, yeah.
A lot.
What?
All right, Bill, we've got a little segment here called the rapid fire segment, which you are probably familiar with. It's about a dozen questions. We roll right through them, no explanations needed. Some of them are kind of stupid, but we like to call it fun. So here we go. What is your favorite food?
Steak.
Who would build the best paper airplane, Dave Archer or Brian Schrammick?
Oh, Dave Archer by far.
What is one company that you would turn down and not allow to sponsor your tractor?
Oh, wow. Probably a solar powered company or something.
That's fair. What pulling competitor do you think would be the best at fixing your refrigerator when it was broken?
Um, 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 God, the guy that was your guest last week.
Brent
Brent
Payne?
Payne.
Okay.
Brett Payne. Yeah, God, how come I keep screwing that up?
What is your favorite movie of all time?
Probably Dances with Wolves.
Okay.
Who would win in a downhill soapbox derby, Ralph Banner or Brad Corporal?
Um, I'd probably Brad.
Okay.
Okay.
If you've ever had a job outside of farming, which one was your least favorite?
I loaded milk cartons on a semis at one time.
That doesn't sound great. What is the best concert you've ever been to?
Two that stick in my mind. Billy Idol
Oh,
was amazing. Right after he'd had his motorcycle accident, he was just freaking unbelievable. And then for my 70th birthday, my kids sent me to Indianapolis for Def Leppard, Joan Jett,
okay.
Poison, missing one,
Was that at
and they at
the
the Hoosier
ballpark?
Dome.
Oh,
No, that's at the Hoosier Dome.
I
Place
saw
was
that
packed.
picture
They
as
had me
well.
on the front row. I mean, it was awesome.
That's
Really
awesome.
loud.
All right. Who could you easiest beat in a game of laser tag? Brian Knox or Misty Lustig?
Misty's mean. I'd have to take on Brian, I think.
Yeah, I understand. If you were to go to jail, what would it most likely be for?
Oh, wow. Probably speeding.
That's a good answer. What competitor have you ever been the closest to protesting?
Rapid fire, Bill. It's Nick for a reason.
Don't worry, Bill. No explanation needed. Just throw out a competitor's name and we'll move on.
Oh my God. Um, can I refuse to answer that one?
Yeah,
Sure.
you can.
That's
I
called the
didn't expect you-
chase button.
Yeah, I didn't expect you to answer that one, Bill. That was a trick. All right, final one. You and one of the NTPA tech officials are in a small airplane that has to land it with nothing but your guidance. Who is your choice to put behind the wheel?
An NTPA tech official or anybody?
Any
Yeah,
tech
any-
official.
Larry Witchwine, because he's flown with me enough that I'd trust him to get us to the
Hell of,
ground.
hell of an answer with good logic, Bill. That was the rapid fire. You did great. On the topic of your airplane, I don't know if you have one, but I know you have had one. Tell us about what that's like, your pilot's license, how many hours you've logged, and break it down for us.
Oh, when I went through my divorce in '85, I decided I always wanted a pilot's license. I did a little flying in the Air Force, and so then I just took a month and a half and got my pilot's license, and then I got my twin rating, and then I got my instrument rating, and then I got a commercial instrument rating. I've got not quite 7,000 hours of flying. The instrument thing, I've landed in some snowstorms where you literally couldn't see a foot out the window. That's a little scary. But when I went through all that cancer stuff, I lost my medical. I still get to fly, but I have to have somebody with me. So it's something I really miss a lot. But I used to, wake up on a Saturday morning and jump in a plane. I could be out here in 6 hours, see my daughter and stuff. It was kind of nice. I hate flying commercial now. So
Yeah, I would imagine. What's the most fun place you've ever flown to, personally?
probably the Bahamas.
Yeah.
Bill, what's a better ride, a unlimited tractor or flying a private or a plane like that, propeller plane?
The scariest ride is landing a plane in a snowstorm where you can't see the runway until you're there. Um, but as far as effort and getting beat up, probably the Unlimited. So
Is there anything scarier than when you decided to quit trying to be Dale Earnhardt and finally took off the open face helmet, pulling a pro stock tractor?
the only time I took that off was when they required that we couldn't run them anymore. So
You
'cause I
look
think all
back
the
at it now. Does it make you think what were we thinking when there was never a roll cage on a pulling tractor?
you know um, I didn't like it when we did it. But I wouldn't crawl on a tractor now if I had a roll cage for all the money in the world. Um, us, I mean, I almost had my Unlimited over at Bowling Green one year,
Yeah.
which you'd think would never happen.
For sure.
Yeah, look at that. You see them pearly whites over the open face helmet.
Well, that's
Does
good for
does
getting
I mean,
dates.
back in the day when you run those diesel tractors, how much boost we talking about going in those engines?
the most I ever had was probably right at 100 pounds. But that got me a lot of dates. I actually had teeth. There's so many people at Bowling Green that don't have any teeth.
Now, Bill, you're going to hurt somebody's feelings with that comment. You better be careful there.
Yeah, the fence hangers hang it. They chase after them guys that got teeth.
I ain't gonna lie. I seen that picture right there. It's like, damn, his teeth are white as hell.
To be him one day. Bill, I caught you drop something in there. Don't want to let it go without recognition. I heard you're an Air Force veteran, so you had some history in the military. I was not aware of this. Would you mind sharing a little bit of your military history and much appreciation to you as a veteran?
Yeah, I just still do hate communism. When you got to remember the Vietnam War was going on when I enlisted. But the Korean War, Russians furnished all the weapons that killed all the Americans in the Korean War, and they were furnishing weapons. So I was going to be an eye doctor. I was accepted to IU. I got pretty good grades in school, but I graduated from high school, and on my 18th birthday, I got on a bus and went to basic training for the Air Force, and then was an airplane mechanic. They trained me on fighters, and they sent me to Grissom to work on tankers. And then I was 18 years old, and they put me in charge of the tire shop at night, I had guys at 40 years old working under me. So one thing I liked about the military is if you studied and took tests, you could get ranked really fast. So, but
if you would have got accepted to Purdue, would you have went there instead of the military? Because I see you're a big Purdue fan, right?
I love Purdue. I went to Purdue after. Now, people give me hell about stuff I think all the time, but the way I look at it, I enlisted to fight for this country. I ought to be able to have an opinion.
Hey, Bill, how long did you serve? I want to make sure we give this honor because I have my own opinion on what you just said as well. How long did you serve this country?
Went in on my birthday of 1970. When the Vietnam War started slowing down, they had a thing called the Palace Chase program where you could get out early, but then you'd have to stay in the reserves till your 6 years is up. So I did that. Wish I never would have. I hated the reserves, but so I had like 2.5 years of regular duty, and then 3.5 in the reserves.
What about the reserves did you hate?
Well, I had a line number for staff when I got out of regulars, I call it. And the first thing they did was take that away in the reserves because they said, well, we got guys that have been here 20 years and they're not even sergeants yet. So they took that away right away. And then they had me painting fences and shit like that. And I was a mechanic. So we made a deal. I said, I'll check in on Friday. I'll go work in the field maintenance squadron and I'll check out on Sunday. And that's what I did the whole time. I'd go work on planes and stuff and then check out. Except I'll tell you a little story. We went to Alaska one year and they had us working on a resort on a lake for the officers. And they had us putting asphalt siding on this building. And they had us start, and the way they started, and I said something to the guy that took my staff line number away. I said, we're putting these on upside down and backwards. And he says, you dumb motherfucker, you don't know anything about it. All you know how to do is turn a wrench. You just do what I tell you. So we get this building all done, and they bring the colonel out from the base to brag to him. And the first thing he looks at, he says, we're on upside down and backwards. And I just broke out laughing as hell. And the colonel comes over and he said, what are you laughing about? I said, I told that idiot that we're putting them upside down and backwards. But they sent us home. So, yeah.
Well, Bill, this is what's beautiful about this podcast. Obviously, we are biased, but I know I do. You're a veteran. I'm speaking on Chase's behalf, not Adam Tyler's or this No Practice podcast behalf. If you served this country and did stuff that 95% or 98% of people have never done, we all are entitled to opinion, but you're entitled to probably more of an opinion on some things. So salute to you, being a veteran. Was not aware of that, and thanks for sharing that little tidbit to us.
Yep. The only
Absolutely.
thing I hate about this country right now is everybody feels like they gotta hate you if you got a different opinion. Everybody's allowed to have an opinion. People just
That's
need to
right.
get used to that. So,
Opinions are like buttholes. Everybody's got one.
Yep.
yep. And you no
Absolutely.
reason to hate anybody for it. So,
Yep.
That's right.
Amen to that. Bill, another thing I want to learn about you. I've heard the farm that you're operating on started in 1837. Tell us about taking over the reins of that farm and now passing it on to, I believe, your grandson, Dylan. Uh, give us the breakdown on all that.
we were the first settlers in Marshall County, Indiana. Um, we actually got here in 1834, I think. When we got here, there was um, the Trail of Death went across our farm
Of
when
course.
when we owned it. When we owned it, my ancestors owned it. But um, it's been through everything. My uh, grandfather used to buy ground and they'd clear it and then sell it. And he had like three different farms he was selling during the Depression. And he just went and told everybody, he says, I know you can't make the payments, anything, just take care of it. And when things get better, start making me payments again. And everybody else in the country was getting their farms repossessed and everything. So he was a pretty good guy. But, and I'm just thrilled my grandson wants to take over. He's 23 and I'm going to be a great great grandfather because he's going to have a kid here in July. So I've got
Congratulations.
8 grandchildren, and I'll be so nothing better than being a grandparent or a parent.
Yep. Adam has one coming in July too. I'm
July
sure you
2,
may have heard
yep.
before. Yeah. So
How many,
And
how
I'm
many
just a
acres do you
dad.
guys
I'm
farm,
not
Bill?
gonna. I have a hard time feeling that I'm ever gonna see a great anything at the age
Yeah.
I am.
Well, every day above ground's a pretty good day. So,
That's right.
but and while I'm thinking about it, Adam, your dad, I really miss him, but he was so much fun to me. He would all those years in the Unlimited, he'd come around and talk to me and stuff. And then I always remember him at Toma. He always sat at the corner down there on the
Yeah,
right hand track. Him and
David.
Peterson's, and
Yeah.
I'd I'd come out of a pull off, and I mean literally, I couldn't hardly see out of my face mask. There's oil all over. You know how that tractor it blew oil everywhere.
Oh yeah. It
And he'd
wasn't
say,
running until it was blowing shit out of it.
yeah, and he'd always say, when you gonna get on that goddamn thing? He says, you gotta get on that, every time. But yeah, he was a great guy. I just
I
thought the
tell you
world
what,
of him.
I really appreciate that. He thought the world of you because he told me, he's like, I just don't get it. If he wants that tractor to go further, it just does. Like he was a fan of he was the biggest fan of pulling that there was, but I had there was a very small part of him. He loved mini rod pulling, like to no end, because it is the best ride. And if you've never been in a mini rod, maybe you would or wouldn't know that. But um, he always wanted a 2, 3, 4, 5 engine tractor, and he we would miss so much. Like if anything else is pulling during the night, we probably didn't get a chance to go up there. But anytime the Unlimiteds come, I mean, it's like bringing everybody out to watch that class. He had to go up there and watch it. But yeah, he was a huge fan of yours, and he was mesmerized by the fact that you'd blow it out the end, and or you'd squeak it out the end, and somehow that second pass you figured out how to make it go further every time, and it just mesmerized him. He loved it. He always thought you're like the best unlimited puller. So much respect to you, man. I've enjoyed, like, I'm a big fan of it too. So I've always loved just watching like the way you operated, and you know, like I said, kicking the engines on at the starting line. Like no matter what, this thing's gonna make a pass. It may destroy everything I own, but I'm gonna make sure I give it my best effort. And that's kind of like built like the mantra. Like my dad never missed a pull. We broke stuff. We'd always figure out how to get on the track the next time. and that's why we like, tried to make every single pull of the year. But you were that guy for him that you just like never missed a hook, and he respected that.
So many people forgot who paid the bills, and there's lots of times I could have not had to do a pull off or something, but you got to pull off. The crowd's there. The bump in the sled thing just ain't right. So
Yeah,
Absolutely.
loved it.
Couldn't agree more. One thing I wanted to touch on, Bill, is in the Unlimited class, the turbines being limited and capped at their horsepower capability. What are your thoughts on that? We've all seen how far the piston engines have developed in the last, decade, if you want to say. Is it time to open the turbines back up to a higher horsepower rating where they can be more competitive with modern day V8s?
I pulled against a lot of turbines over the years. The only one he's I ever felt safe around was Gardner's, because I knew he sent his engines off to an engine shop to rebuild them, and cost a lot of money. But we got some guys pulling on a region that will throw 3 junk engines on the floor of their shop and take blades out of this one and put in that one and make an engine out of it. Fellas, it ain't safe. I've been around engines done by professionals that almost cut the wing off an airplane. So,
I'll take that as a no then.
yeah,
He's an airplane mechanic. He's probably seen it.
I love barges. When great people, but those engines are all red tag engines that they're running. They've been hot or they won't pass. So yeah, I'm not a big
Something
fan
must
of.
something must have happened this year because it seemed like them things really picked up. Did they allow something with the turbines here
I
recently?
I
Water.
have no idea.
I remember back in the day there was no water injection after they because they run so much better with water injection. And then I see Don Dean over there taking these chamois, right? You take these chamois out that you dry your car off with, and he's throwing them on the intake. They have like a shroud around for the intake, and he's throwing these chamois on there that are wet. Like, what the hell are you doing? He says, "Well, we're not injecting water. It might just be pulling a little extra in there." And I thought, you know what? They're always going to find a gray area to these rules here.
Yeah, it's one
You
thing.
got to respect it.
One thing Larry Richmond and I probably never agreed on was the turbine thing. Um, when Dave Snyder ran, I brought up somebody. It's a wonder he didn't kill somebody. And that one time his gearbox came apart there at Port Recovery, they should have impounded that tractor.
Really?
But they let him load up and leave. So.
Were you at Fort Recovery when Walsh's went down the track there? And
I was the last tractor to pull the sled before Walsh's went out the end.
Did you have a roll?
And
did you know? Was there something happened to the sled there? I mean, was it noticeable?
Yeah, the sled just didn't work. That's not Walsh's fault.
Right.
And Walsh's tractor was a top-notch tractor. But just like that, when they pull his fuel shed off on that jet engine or turbine engine, the first thing it does is lean out, which makes it speed up. So instead of slowing it down right away, you're speeding the sucker up. And yeah, they're lucky they didn't kill somebody there.
Pretty apparent the opinion on turbines, and I can see where you're coming from. What about screws, Bill, and the fact that they put a rotor limitation in the unlimited class on screw superchargers? Your thoughts?
You're not gonna like this either. My opinion is that screws are, and love Benedict's. My opinion is screws are something we probably shouldn't have ever put in the pulling,
Oh,
but they're here.
yeah.
The limits we got are less than what the NHRA has, right? As far as rotor speed.
No, the same now. They're
Are they the same?
well, they say what they say 120 over, which is the max for top alcohol dragster, which is, and on top of that, it is a D rotor blower, which is a 20% smaller blower. Is that
Right.
120? They're spinning C rotors at 120 over. I think at one point in time, Boyd's were running them at 140, which was really questionable, but make a lot of air.
It's pretty party.
But you know what? Here's what I'll say about the screw blowers. If anybody owns them right now, I saw one on the internet the other day for 60 grand. Like, I know most people, I mean, Chase knows because there was a business dealing here like a few years back. But if you would have held on to those blowers a few more years, Chase, you could have doubled them from what they were. They're getting stupid money for them right now.
But my personal opinion, if since you got them, I'd stay right where the NHRA is on the limit on them because
Right.
they study that shit pretty close.
So
Right.
if the NHRA raises the limit, you think pulling should?
I suppose.
I don't care one way or another. I just always like to hear people's opinions on this, and that's always to me when people say like the unlimited class, you can do whatever you want, and I'm like, well, not necessarily. There's
Like
there's
the
several
light
stages of
unlimited?
limitations. Yeah.
But it's back to the consistency thing. They make an amazing pass, and then there'll be a couple pulls that just don't go anywhere.
So it's safe to say we won't see Bill Voreis bolting on 5 screws for potentially the highest horsepower unlimited tractor ever in existence in competition.
No, because the only place it'd make a hell of a show on the starting line when it jumps up and down, can't go anywhere, but that'd be about it. So
That's very fair. That's very fair. All right, Bill, one of my last questions I like to ask people. If it's Saturday night at Bowling Green and you are the last hook in the class, obviously taking home a win is always special, but taking it from that certain someone always makes it that much more special. For Mr. Bill Voreis, who is that special someone you want to take it from?
well, let me do a little explaining here. Over the years, people just like to pick on me, and like when Ceramics did their 6-engine tractor, all I got was emails and DMs on Facebook. Yep, well, your ass is toast now. There's no way you're going to beat that 6-engine tractor. And when the guys came from Europe, same thing. Them guys are going to kick your ass. And last year it was Brent Payne's tractor. That thing has got tons of weight. And being fair to Brent Payne, I think if he'd have ran the full season, he probably would have won the points. But anyway, what I'm getting to, the one I'm getting now is them 4.9 Noonan motors that Richardson's are going to run. They're going to run 10,000, and there's no way you're going to touch them. So I guess if I'm in a pull-off at Bowling Green, I'd want Richardson's and Brent Payne's and me in the pull-off is what I'd like to have. Nothing against you, Chase, but
You bother me. I love it.
yeah. So
It's not 10,000 either. It's about 8,800. It's just about 1,000 more than everybody else.
well, it's what everybody likes to send me stuff, So
If it is 10,000, we won't be making very many runs, I don't think. That's only for the 2-wheel drive.
yeah.
No,
You put a 4 and 1/8 stroke in your motors, Bill. You can turn them 10,000.
Yeah. I've always liked big motors, so.
It's fair.
Actually, when I was building this tractor, and they might have told Chase this at Noonan's, we talked about them building me 2 tall deck 4.9s with bigger cubes.
Still could.
I think at
Yeah, I
one
know.
point in time, Chase would probably remember this. Chase, don't you remember what somebody said back in the day? In the right hands, those engines could be unbeatable.
yeah, he's a good friend of mine.
Who said that?
Tried to kick us out before we ever got started.
Who said that, Chase?
Oh, he knows who he is. He's a good friend of mine.
In the right hands, those engines could be unbeatable.
Yeah,
I dare say that's an insult.
You know what we say? We're like, well, there's no better way to call somebody a dumbass than that. he knows us well.
If we had another hour, I could give you a lot of things people have said to me over the years.
I just remember when that was said because I was like, I would have punched that fucker right in his nose.
That's such a beautifully spoken slap in the
He
face.
confirms something we all know. We're pretty stupid.
No,
Bill,
I think you guys are all right. I think you guys are just fine. Maybe if you guys back them things down just a skosh, you'd probably be all right.
We only turned 10 grand the 2-wheel. The rest of them turned 8,800.
Okay.
that's right.
Bill, we're well over 2.5 hours. This has been amazing. Love hearing and learning stuff that I didn't know, and I'm sure Adam and Tyler didn't know about you, your background history. Anything, you know, Adam, we normally have a little chat going, but Adam, I'm going to take your question. There's one thing you could change in pulling, and I think this would be a good one to wrap it on, or a few things you would change in pulling. What would those things be? We've talked about the pull-offs and so forth, but fire away. Then you can follow up with any final sign-offs and comments from your end. And it's been a great show, and thank you again, Bill.
I think pulling's in a pretty good place right now. I guess I think some of the Grand National pulls are kind of watered down by some of the classes they have. But the biggest thing I would like to do is, like I said, I would like more stringent tech so people aren't worried about this guy's drawbar length. You know, the competitors shouldn't have to check other people's drawbar lengths and stuff. You know, that's something that tech ought to do. And I know they don't have enough help, so that's why I said maybe our memberships need to be $500 more. But other than that, people over 70 ought to get free entry, I guess, maybe.
All right, Bill, we got one comment here in the live stream chat that's saying, "Come on with the cheating stories." You had referenced it earlier. I'm not going to pry too hard, but I at least got to throw it out there one more time in case you're feeling comfortable. You want to touch on that, even if you're not naming names, or you want to leave it alone?
Well, I'll tell you what the cheating was.
Okay.
Oh, you can't just do that and not tell us, Bill.
When you're
I'll
in the
take
pro
what I
stock,
can get.
one year at the pro stock in Toma, I saw a nitrous bottle under a guy's hood, and I said, "Well, we'll beat him anyway," and we did. And the other thing, a certain mod puller years ago had his clutches off his tractor and had none of them had liners in them. And I did mention that to a tech official, but I didn't protest or anything.
It's a safety thing, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I think I know that. There's only a couple that could
Wild.
be.
Well, Bill, we can't thank you enough for giving us your time this evening. It's been our pleasure. I don't know if you have any questions for us before we send you on your way, and you have a great time at the Renaissance Festival. Any thoughts?
No, I had those 2 truths and a lie picked out, but
Oh my goodness! Well, we
Oh,
got to do
let's
that.
We can't
now.
forget.
We got
Chase is trying to kick
Take
you off.
take it away, Bill, with the 2 truths and 1 lie, sir.
I better get another beer for this one.
okay, here, one of these is a lie.
Okay.
I won the Indy Indoor Super Bowl. In my first year in the mod, I pulled in the Astrodome, the Minneapolis Dome, the Atlanta Dome, and the Superdome. And the third one is my total number of the wins at what I call the Big Four: Toma, Chapel Hill, Bowling Green, and National Farm Machinery Show is 55. One of those is a lie.
I'm going to go with the middle one, the multitude of domes.
I'm going to say you got 55 in those big 4, Bill. I bet you got like 53.
He's like, nope, 56, bitch.
See you in the pull off.
Well, I guess
Adam?
if they're going that way, I'm going to pick the first one. Hoosier Dome.
Yeah. You mean you picking the Indy Super Bowl or the
Indy Super Bowl? I'm sorry, Indy Super Bowl.
Yeah. The lie is the Indy Super Bowl. I never won that poll, and I really regret not doing it. So
I've heard that people some comments that they should try to bring that back because the venue they use has been renovated. It's in good shape. Could you ever see that happening, Bill? Being from Indiana?
in the Pepsi thing there at the state fairgrounds,
Yeah.
I'd much rather see it in the oil drum, but I don't know what that would take.
The old drum, Lucas Oil Stadium.
Yeah,
I love that name.
yeah.
That's a good name for it.
Good stuff. Well, maybe one
The question is, will it be the Lucas Oil Stadium after next year?
Oh.
Is it up for grabs, Adam?
Yep, that'll be the contract up for that building. It'd be interesting. I'd love to pull in that dome.
Yeah.
So, Bill, you got to pull in the Astrodome, right?
Yes, sir.
Tell us. I know we're going to stretch this a little bit. Tell us the vibe a little bit more about pulling in the domes compared to maybe outside.
Well, we were with the monster trucks, so 80% of the people were there for the trucks. But it's fun, we did the drivers thing where they come around and you signed autographs and stuff. The Astrodome was a full 300-foot track. The Atlanta Dome was. The Metrodome, and of course the Superdome. I won the one at the Superdome, and I think I might have won the Atlanta Dome too. But we went to Minneapolis Dome, and Blaney, Blaney, John Blaney, he was in charge of the show. And at the drivers' meeting, he says, at the end of the pulling track, they had this real nice carpet all laid out there around. He says, whatever you guys do not tear that carpet up. Well, I'm first hook, and I get down there, and I had to slam on both brakes, slide off the end of the track, and I just touched that carpet. Killmeyer's there, and he pulls, and he gets out there, and he hits the carpet, and the carpet's flying up and into the bleachers and everything. So several guys got down there. So they get ready to have the pull off, and he says, well, you didn't make it. You didn't go far enough. And I said, John, I stopped where you told me to stop, so, but but they had a time restraint. So that's my
Jack
indoor
Killmeyer
pulling.
not paying attention to the rules.
Yeah. And I mean, and he literally stayed in it till smoke was rolling off the tires. He wasn't too worried about the carpet.
Atta boy.
Love it.
They sell carpet every
They make it
day.
every day, right?
Yeah.
Cool. Well, Bill, you officially, I think, took the record over to the longest podcast ever. Much earned, much deserved. Been a great show. Tyler, I think we're going to sign off along with Bill here. Thanks again for coming on, Bill. I know you've been very supportive of this privately since we started. That means a lot, and always appreciate your honest and knowledgeable feedback for all we're doing. So I'm going to call this a sign-off. Adam, Tyler, any final words for you guys?
No, sir.
Just really appreciate it, Bill. Really appreciate you.
It's
coming
been an
on.
honor, guys.
Yeah.
What you're doing is great. So,
The honor is
Thank you,
ours.
sir.
Bill, safe travels. Enjoy Arizona. Don't get taken out by some whatever they call those things.
He's got Bronson. That dog's a fucking beast. So
Enjoy that turkey leg tomorrow at the Renaissance Festival.
We'll be back in 2 weeks. The first Wednesday in April 2nd. So thanks again for tuning in. We'll be back. Thanks, fans.
see you guys.
That's a wrap.
Bye-bye.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the No Practice Podcast.
Have a good one. Bye.
Stay tuned for the next episode, where we guarantee there still won't be any practice.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.